When this guy comes home, he sees his door spray painted like shit, with only a single note saying, "Rooftop." He walks up there and finds a bunch of bullies who dared to come here. They also dragged his high school friend with them. They beat him so badly that it's hard to even call that mess a face anymore. Our boy gets really angry and asks how they can even call themselves humans. But they just joke around about the death of his sister who fell from this roof a while ago. That's their last mistake. They rush to kill our boy, hoping their numbers will help them. But they move like a bunch of idiots, trying to climb the stairs all at once. Leojin jumps right onto the roof with a superhero landing and rushes straight for their leader. That bastard doesn't even have time to react and instantly gets his head crushed by a knee. The other thugs are shocked by how fast our boy is, but they're still stupid enough to attack again. Leojin dodges the first baseball bat strike and knocks the guy out with a punch. At that moment, another thug almost gets him from behind, but he clearly sees the attack and blocks it. The baseball bat shatters, leaving the thug speechless. He just wets his pants when he sees the look in our boy's eyes. Then Leojin picks up a broken piece of the bat and threatens to kill him. The thug immediately starts begging for mercy. Leojin spares him and tells those losers to get lost. The main thing is that he saved his friend now. Yet he regrets that back then he failed to save his sister, and now he's determined to do everything to get revenge on the bastards who were behind her death. At the tender age of 17, Lee Ari had captured the hearts of many with her innate talent in K-pop. She was a sensation throughout the industry. However, as you know, such a meteoric rise attracted just as many haters who wanted to pull her down just as fast. Scandalous rumors about her being involved in debauchery and violence started to spread all over social media, and her rising fame became the noose around her neck. Her agency kicked her out in light of the allegations surrounding her. With her career destroyed, the girl was devastated. So much happened in such a short amount of time that there was no room for her to cope with it all. Unfortunately, that was just the beginning of what awaited her. The fire that surrounded her also began to engulf the people around her. Her brother and mother became innocent casualties of her catastrophic downfall. In school, Leojin was constantly looked down upon and bullied because of his sister. Specifically, Kwak Gitai was the ringleader when it came to the torment. It goes without saying that Leojin hated everyone who wrongly accused his sister of acts she never committed. Even though he tried his very best and fought against the bullying, deep down he was just as powerless as his sister against the unfairness and cruelty of the society. Over time, his sister became more and more paranoid. The only thing she could do was stay locked away and soak up all the vitriol scattered across social media. Eventually, she hit her breaking point. She could no longer stand to watch her family taking heat because of her. She climbed up the apartment building and decided to attempt the unthinkable, claiming her own life. Instead of helping, people gathered around the building and started recording to capture this sensational viral moment. Ajin ran back home after watching the live stream, intent on saving his desperate sister. Cruelly, the drama seekers intentionally blocked Ajin's path, refusing to let him enter the building to keep him occupied. Ajin knocked the fuck out of the person hindering his path and screamed at all the cameras facing him. But it was all too late. He watched his sister come tumbling down off the building, her body hitting the ground with a ghastly, splattering thud. The sight of this harrowing tragedy was a feast for everyone standing there with cameras, ready to live stream it all. While it was entertainment for some, it was a day of reckoning for her family. After the funeral, her memorial altar was a ghost town, occupied only by her devastated brother. The public believed she deserved to die, so mourning her death was seen as an unnecessary waste of time. Her death left her brother with a deep wound in his heart. He was disgusted with himself for not being able to protect her. But then again, time waits for no one, and 2 weeks flew by just like that. Back at school, in the classroom, the buzz surrounding Ari hasn't died down. Though the students hesitate to talk about it out loud, especially when Ari's brother is sitting right behind them, one guy doesn't see anything wrong with running his mouth. Ajin's haunted expression doesn't change. He merely stands up and leaves the class. Even the other students find his despondency rather concerning. As Ajin walks down the corridor, he is spotted by the same bullies who always loved to trash him for his deceased sister. Since they were feeling bored and running out of cash, these bastards found the perfect plaything to cash on. Meanwhile, Ajin is standing under the vast sky, right near the roof's ledge. His exhausted eyes and pale skin betray the fact that he still hasn't gotten over his sister's traumatic death. His mind is clouded with all sorts of doubts, and he can't stop questioning himself on how and where he failed. Perhaps if he had arrived a little earlier, would he have been able to save his sister? His train of gloomy thoughts is suddenly interrupted when those same bullies smash an empty juice box into his face. The redhead is Minjae, here to record the scene, while his scumbag friend, Gitai, is there to harass our boy. Actually, scratch that. In the previous sentence I mentioned that his train of thought was interrupted. I was wrong. Those bullies are literally invisible to him as his mind is still drowning in its own misery. Gitai the bastard walks forward and proceeds to slap the boy in an attempt to provoke him. Seeing that Ajin isn't reacting despite getting assaulted twice, the bully delivers yet another stinging slap across the boy's face. Yet, even that painful sting wasn't enough to wake Ajin from his thoughts. Noticing the lack of response, the goon gets ticked off and consequently unleashes a punch right into the boy's gut. The bastard continues to pummel Ajin's face, treating him like a fucked up piñata. Our boy continues to take every hit without resistance, as if he is immune to the damage. Someone weak like him doesn't have the right to live or to have been born. At least that's what Ajin's traumatized mind concludes. Simultaneously, the redhead continues to record the brutal beating the boy is taking. Once he's got a good length video, he decides to call it a day. He is certain that just these few minutes of footage hold viral potential, meaning free money is ahead. Gitai, however, insists on continuing a little more since he was having fun. But his redhead boss orders him to retreat, noting that in the era of doom scrolling, no one watches full-length videos. After all, Gen Z has the attention span of a hamster. It seems Gitai has no choice but to withdraw for now, though he does so after a brutal and flashy kick right to our boy's guts, causing him to stumble back a few feet. With that, they leave the beaten and broken boy alone to drown in his sorrowful existence. A while later, we see Minjae sending the video to someone high up in their hierarchy, expecting to score big this time. Even the goons are excited about what they're going to do with the new money they are about to score. Gitai decides he wants to spend it all on girls and partying. However, his hopes to satisfy his lust are dashed as soon as he gets smacked upside the head by Minjae. His boss isn't willing to pay shit if he acts like a punk. Gitai somehow swallows his bubbling frustration and promises to be a better human being. The scene then pans over to a baddie walking down the corridor, attracting all eyeballs to her heavy chest and thick thighs. She walks past Minjae and his goons, ascending the stairs to the roof. It seems like it's the first time they have seen this girl, and given how hot she is, they are wondering how they were unaware of her existence before. Minji tasks the fatty, who is also called Bagan, to dig up everything about her. Back to our beaten-up protagonist. His attention is instantly grabbed by the sharp voice of that baddie calling out his name. She towers over him, annoyed by his pathetic state. Upon asking who she even is, the girl lashes out further. The introductions are irrelevant. What matters most to her is why he has totally surrendered to the very bastards who ruined his sister's life. That statement of hers actually serves as a wake-up call to him. We then cut back to Minjae standing in a secluded side of the school. He is busy questioning his boss, asking if he enjoyed the video of Ajin. Contrary to what the redhead was expecting to hear, his boss explodes in a full-blown tirade. Watching someone getting beaten up isn't exciting anymore, meaning the video won't make any headlines. Minjae insists on a little compensation since he claims he had to go through a lot to film that video. But his pity party doesn't work against his equally scummy boss, who demands he record something worth uploading if he actually wants to earn money. Suddenly, his privacy is invaded by the blue-haired baddie we saw earlier. He gets scared the moment she questions him on how much he sold that video for. The guy is too paralyzed to utter anything. Before we proceed further, let's take a step back and learn what she discussed with our boy on the rooftop. When she lashed out at Ajin for not standing up against the people who wronged his sister, the boy snickered. He found it ironic that she was expressing concern about his situation. Where had she been when his sister was being wronged by the very people she speaks of? To Ajin, she is just another one of them who stood in the background and watched his sister suffer. After the boy's blow-off, a moment of silence followed, ending with the girl leaving. Even though she had a lot to say, she decided to wait for the perfect time to lay it all out. Later we find her alone, reflecting on Ajin's situation. She is pretty darn certain that what happened to Lee Airy will soon happen to her brother. She has seen that Ajin is a boy with true grit, given how he fought against those scummy filmers on the day of his sister's death. What she is trying to say is that Ajin isn't getting bullied because he is weak, but because someone is intentionally making things worse for him. The closest suspect she has is that redhead boy. By following him, she figured she could find out what the hell is going on. That's how she ended up spooking him while he was busy talking to his boss regarding Ajin's latest video. She intentionally wraps her arm around his neck continuously to put him in a psychologically vulnerable situation. Given she is interested in knowing the price, he is willing to sell the info to her. Upon her interrogation of how much it costs, the boy quotes 500. The girl proceeds to weaponize her feminine side to gain the upper hand in the negotiation. The scummy redhead gives a quick glance at her chest, as well as her thick thighs, and drops the price down to 50. That was one hell of a discount, at the cost of her letting him fondle her ass. But in response, the girl ends up fondling the gooner's face with a Mike Tyson punch, dropping him to the ground. With him knocked out, she picks up his phone and thanks him for his cooperation. In the classroom, Gite notices Minjae has been absent for quite a while now and inquires about it. Our low-budget young Donald Drum isn't sure where he went, though he assumes he went to smoke some cigarettes. The bored Gitai gets up and decides to accompany Minjae for a smoking session. Seeing the boy leave without permission, the teacher starts yelling at him, but this jackass doesn't care. His teacher is just background noise to him. As he descends the stairs, he comes across the same voluptuous baddie. Gitai sees this as an opportunity to finally satisfy his desires by getting a hold of her soft buns. He tries to initiate a conversation by asking where she is going. However, the girl knows how to deal with these kinds of low-level scum. She bulldozes her way past the guy, ticking him off. Right then, his buddy also arrives on the spot, totally out of breath. Without wasting another second, he yells at his dimwit underling to get hold of her. Well, the opportunistic Gitai isn't willing to follow orders, only for his boss to scream at him. Gitai promptly begins dashing, but not before making it clear that he expects money as compensation. As he approaches the girl and extends his filthy hand to grab her, she uses her ultra instinct to slip away like a wet noodle. With her out of the way, the Gooner boy becomes a victim of his own momentum and tumbles down onto his face. To rub a little salt in the wound, the girl begins to take pleasure in his pathetic state, causing the already impatient bull to lose his composure further. He promises to kill her, a dialogue that sounds like the joke of the century to her ears. From the other direction, Min-jae comes marching forward, thinking he could catch her off guard. But the girl is quick on her feet and jumps out of the building via the window. Min-jae is enraged at his goon for failing to catch a literal girl, even though he himself literally got smacked by that very chick. Nonetheless, they both jump off the building and start chasing her. The moment she takes the turn to the other side, everything changes. The woman literally pulls her Hayabusa out of thin air. This unexpected turn of events scares the fuck out of the goons. They immediately scatter and duck away before that hot tire leaves a burning mark over their asses. The woman breaks with style and flashes Min-jae's smartphone, which she still possesses. Min-jae isn't even thinking about his phone. The absurdity of the situation has taken him by complete shock. Cutting back to our boy, he is walking past the corridor with the same dejected face. He comes across his teacher, simply bows his head, and walks past him. Then there are all these students standing there, whispering among themselves. They feel uncomfortable having this blight around them. If only he could transfer out of this school and let them catch some air, because his pathetic presence is suffocating. These guys even speculate that he was also involved in his sister's death. All the more reason to hate him. As Ajin once again starts drowning in his thoughts, he is suddenly snapped out of it by the sound of an engine roaring. Peeking out the window, he notices that same girl riding a motorbike. This outgoing girl notices him too, and waves at him with a big smile on her face. A short while later, the trio of thugs reunites at their usual smoking spot to settle the score. Min-jae doesn't feel comfortable parting with his cash and hesitates to pay Gitai anything but shit. However, he doesn't want their relationship to erode completely, so he offers him $50 for his recent services. Along with the money, Min-jae cunningly adds a simple gesture of appreciation. The big guy takes the money and responds mutually. Though he doesn't look pleased, even Min-jae can sense the downcast look on his face. Min-jae asks if the small amount of money is the issue, but Gitai doesn't admit it. He simply slides the bills deep into his pocket. Min-jae knows full well that his phone is worth far more than this pocket change, which is why he sternly orders his big friend to drag that bitch down and retrieve the device. Gitai knows that this shit is way above his pay grade, so he tries to politely decline. However, Min-jae raises the stakes by offering 20 times the original payment. 20 is a magical number that instantly sends Gitai's mind into a state of euphoria. The bro literally begins to tremble at the thought. Hell, this uneducated runt can't even calculate how many zeros there will be in his payout if multiplied by 20. His fat friend does the mental math and quotes 10 million won as the payment. Just like that, the dude who once claimed he was having a hard time catching the girl is now ready to render her limbs useless and drop her at Min-jae's feet. Without further ado, Gitai takes his pig-like friend along with him, and they set off to score that big payday. Seeing their enthusiasm for the job, Min-jae feels smug and confident that the girl will get exactly what she deserves. Once again, the scene focuses on our boy, Ajin, walking down his lonely path. After hearing everyone speculating and spreading false rumors about him, he can finally relate to his sister, who went through this exact same shit. Back then, the rumors and speculations were so loud that his own voice was lost in the noise, and no one was interested in listening to the truth. Now that he thinks about it, he might have been wrong to assume that no one was listening. That busty chick is perhaps one of the few who noticed the injustice. Before he can unravel this epiphany further, he is smacked by Bagan from behind. The goon flashes his phone screen and demands to know the whereabouts of the girl. Of course, Ajin identifies the woman, but he isn't sure where she is right now, and he remains honest about it. But the fatty isn't buying it. He clearly saw her heading to the rooftop, so it goes without saying that she ran into him. Ajin remains in cold silence while Bagan continues to pester him for answers. Then again, Ajin's response remains the same. This load of shit then tries to get all chummy, claiming that Gitai intends to apologize to him in person and wants him to tag along for a short while. Rather forcefully, the low-budget Donald Drum eventually drags the unmotivated Ajin along with him. A short while passes, and we see the fatty feeling totally livid because his friend is already running late. In the meantime, he offers a cigarette to our boy, but Ajin is too tired for this nonsense and begins walking away in the opposite direction. Bagan tries to convince him that Gitai will be here at any moment, but Ajin isn't willing to make a U-turn despite the insistence. This gets the tub of lard totally riled up, and he starts crossing the line. Ajin doesn't appreciate his aggression and glares at him with bloody intent. Bagan fails to read the room and takes Ajin's anger as a bluff, thinking he is just trying to act tough. The bastard goes as far as to spit right onto the broken boy's face before attempting to launch a punch. Contrary to what you might have thought, the fatty's ass is saved by that same hot chick. Her sudden interruption startles him, but what is more startling is that she is the very girl they had been looking for. This unsuspecting, harmless-looking woman turns into a wild beast and delivers a crushing punch to the fatty's face, leaving blood gushing out of his mouth. That one punch alone leaves Bagan in the dust. Seeing this turn of events, Ajin is forced to reckon with why she continues to follow him. First of all, the girl makes her intentions clear. She isn't into him. She is just trying to fill the void of loneliness left by misery. Ajin wants her to cut the crap and reveal her main agenda. But before the girl can say anything, a filthy bastard snipes her from behind, delivering a crushing hit to the back of her head that causes her blood to splatter everywhere. That single headshot leaves her tumbling to the ground, while the bastard who executed this scummy attack feels annoyed that his weak wooden rod shattered into splinters upon impact. It's not just one goon, there is an entire entourage of lowlifes, all here for one purpose only. The one leading the charge is Gitai, who snickers like a hyena watching the girl down for the count. One guy helps Bagan get back on his feet. His friends are glad for baiting the bitch all the way here, while Bagan feels glad that his hunch was right. Ajin is somehow related to this woman they just smashed. Moving on, they decide to drag her to their hideout for a little fun, clearly not registering the possibility that our boy could even pose a threat to them. They might not know it, but a storm has started to brew. Ajin is losing his shit watching the girl on the floor. That's good news for us, but bad news for these messed up high schoolers. The dumbbell Gitai thinks it's safe to get closer to our boy and puts a friendly hand on his shoulder. While apologizing for what he did to him on the rooftop, the bastard plants his nasty foot onto the baddie's soft thighs, getting excited as he feels the give of her flesh. However, the emotions our boy is feeling are quite the contrary. Gitai poses a curious question, wondering if he knows this chick. Our boy's answer is quite predictable, a kind of response Gitai didn't like. In response, Gitai launches a ballistic punch right into Ajin's gut that literally squeezes the poor boy's lungs up to his throat. That single ballistic missile was enough to make our boy double over on the ground. Giti the bastard isn't willing to back down unless he hears the response he wants. Ajin seems to be hitting his breaking point, and the terrifying look on his face clearly says it all. Gitai finds this boy's confidence rather annoying and delivers another jaw-smashing punch for giving him that cocky look. The assailant continues to pummel his victim with kicks and punches. Even his friends think that Gitai is crossing the line with the severity of the beating. They actually fear the kid may not survive these grueling few minutes. However, since the fatty had seen Ajin get pummeled to a pulp before, he isn't sure if this is enough to actually kill him. Cutting back to Gitai, he grabs the broken kid by the collar and demands to know about the chick. Much to Gitai's annoyance, our boy snaps back with a solid "fuck you" and keeps denying any affiliation with the woman. His brazen response only earns him yet another face smasher, a punch hard enough to crash Ajin right beside the girl. Gitai then orders his underlings to take the girl as well as swipe the phone she has stolen. As she lays there motionless, one dickhead lifts her up like a sack of potatoes, while another finally finds the phone they had been looking for. Seeing this, Gitai gets excited, thinking they are about to hit the jackpot. Even the fatty is losing his shit over the millions of won Minjae had promised them. However, their happiness is short-lived because they have fucked up big time. The one carrying the girl reports that she has stopped breathing. This news comes as a massive shock to everyone standing there. The atmosphere, once charged with positive energy, has expired into despair. They know that if she is dead, they are fucking dead too. The one holding the girl panics hard and dumps her out of his hands. The other goons are also panicking, wanting Gitai to do something, otherwise doom awaits them. Gitai feels annoyed by how pathetically they are responding to the situation. They are bitches, not gangsters, panicking over mere speculation. For all Gitai cares, it's impossible to kill someone with just a single strike. He suggests they check her themselves if they have any doubt. The gooner fatty's heart gets pumping hearing this, and he takes the responsibility to check if she is alive. However, Gitai wants to do this divine work himself, so he shoves the pathetic fatty aside. After pinching her jacket off her chest, the bastard is ready to fondle her breasts through her bra. Just as he extends his hand and gets close enough, the girl responds by biting his thumb. But that bite wasn't the main cause for concern for Gitai. It was the nutcracker kick she delivered right to his family jewels that left his breath stuck in his throat. As his pain receptors overwhelm him, causing him to double over, she extends her assault by smashing the bastard right in the throat, causing him to whine like a bitch before joining his boss on the ground. One of the fools doesn't realize the gravity of the situation he is currently in, and considers it an opportunity to make a name for himself by defeating her. After grabbing her by the hair, he extends his hand to deliver a slap. However, the girl turns out to be the next Bruce Lee. She ninjas her way out of his grasp before twisting the bastard's filthy hand. If you recall correctly, this whiny ass was the same punk who cracked her skull earlier, so she hopes he isn't mad about what is about to happen to him. Karma is a bitch, and so is this chick. She shatters the bastard's arm and leaves him groveling in the dirt with tears of pain in his eyes. Meanwhile, the one with the busted nuts has also woken up from the dead. He is ticked off by the fact that she almost ended his entire bloodline. Seeing a pointy, splintered wooden stick, he grabs it and swings it at her, aiming the jagged end right at her. The girl is scared for obvious reasons. This lunatic is literally attempting to murder her. Thankfully, Ajin smacks the goon's head with a fire extinguisher, literally knocking him out with that single devastating strike. Once the goon god is down for the count, his equally goonish buddies are shocked out of their minds. Since there are only 2 people they have to deal with, their numbers give them confidence, and they charge forward to take our duo down. Ajin isn't fucking around anymore. He pulls the pin and puts the fire extinguisher to use, suffocating those bastards in thick CO2. Taking advantage of the low visibility, the duo pulls themselves out of the smog and starts walking in the opposite direction while supporting each other. The girl is exhausted, not sure if she can run any faster with her cracked head. Luckily, her car was just around the corner. After getting into it, she gestures for Ajin to get inside. That's how they both manage to rendezvous and escape the place in her sleek Mercedes AMG. Ajin is still shocked by this unexpected turn of events, wondering if she even has a license. To keep her introduction simple, she introduces herself as a cyber wrecker, a term that clearly flies over our young man's head. With blood trickling down her head like a broken tap, she doesn't seem to be in perfect condition to entertain his questions. Still, she elaborates that her kind is called drivers in this industry. Ajin mistakes her meaning, assuming she is merely here to further surveil and interrogate the family of the idol to get more headlines. However, the girl denies it. Ajin makes his threat clear. If he somehow learns that she is even remotely involved with his sister's death, she will have yet another leaking crack in her head before she knows it. This bold woman brazenly gives him an open challenge to do whatever he desires. However, he must listen to her side of the story first. She wants to start by explaining his sister's situation. But before we hear anything further, we cut to Min-jae, anxiously waiting for his goons to return. Eventually they do end up returning. Spotting them, Min-jae quickly jumps to request the phone they were supposed to retrieve. The numb-minded Gitai presents it to his patron, who snatches it out of the guy's hand as if the phone is about to run off. When he checks his phone, the worst scenario he had been dreading has happened. That girl has already stolen all the assaulting videos he and his gooner buddies love to record. Though he is a little relieved that his boss Hyung didn't contact him in the meantime. Coming back to the main topic, he questions his goons about the girl they were supposed to catch. While Bagan stutters, Gitai doesn't feel thrilled to announce that she slipped away like a wet noodle. That woman was on some Bruce Lee type shit. Her punches were a force to be reckoned with, and she literally wiped out anyone that stood in front of her, despite sustaining a severe injury to her head. This revelation makes Min-jae snicker. No wonder these guys look like fucked up piñatas used as punching bags. Bagan tries to warn his non-serious boss that they aren't talking shit. That woman seriously had some slick moves up her sleeve. All it took for her to knock this pig down was a single punch, so he knows that the woman is dangerous. Min-jae takes a moment to reflect on their miserable situation. A girl popped out of nowhere in their school, then she pulled out a Hayabusa, then she beat the fuck out of everyone. All this sounds like the messed up script of some Korean melodrama. While Min-jae is unable to tame his laughter, his goons further expand on the details, noting that Lee Ah-jin seems unacquainted with the chick. Even Bagan thinks that it does indeed sound like some flop script of a low-budget Bollywood movie, but everything is true. Min-jae barks at them to send every picture or piece of visual evidence they possess of that chick. Once Min-jae sends everything to his boss, he tries to contact him. He is sure that they are going to hit big with this woman. Back to our duo, cruising down the road in her car. The girl questions him if he knows the NewTuber who began posting all the wrong stuff regarding his sister. Just for context, NewTuber is their version of a YouTuber. Well, Ajin has no clue who is behind all this. The chick claims that she has some clues. The channel called Geico TV is the one behind it. It seems like Ajin is unfamiliar with this channel's presence, much to the girl's bewilderment. After all, this channel is a big name in the industry. Someone who lives under a rock or doesn't use NewTube would be the only type unaware of its presence. Well, Ajin claims that he does indeed use NewTube actively, but only to browse cat videos. What a Chad, I would say. Moving back to the topic at hand, the girl decides to explain her line of work in the simplest form possible. You see, there are people called cyber wreckers who intentionally hunt for controversial stories. If they don't find any spicy drama, they stoop so low as to manufacture false narratives about famous personalities, just to stir up controversy. Take his sister as an example. She became an innocent casualty of these cyber wreckers who were looking for sizzling headlines to cash in on. Working with these filthy groups are operatives called drivers. These people help the cyber wreckers investigate, surveil, and fabricate evidence against big personalities. Now everything clicks in Ajin's mind. These so-called drivers are currently crawling through his school, looking forward to fabricating fake stories and rumors. They are the same filthy bunch who spread the lies revolving around Lee Ari. She reminds him about that fake interview with a supposed victim of Lee Ari's bullying. That is how they spread false rumors and speculations to defame their target. After learning that the scum of the earth is in his school right now, He wants this chick to help him locate them because he desperately wants to squeeze the life out of them with his own bare hands. We then cut back to Min-jae having a phone call with his big boss, Jung-gu Hyung. He has sent the chick's photos to him. Taking a look at the boss in question, bro looks like a final-level Yakuza boss. Min-jae further expands on the details, highlighting that she recently popped up in the school and approached Lee Ah-jin. Hearing this, the boss is sure that shit is about to get real. This time, instead of letting his whiny lackeys handle the situation, he decides to step in and deal with that bitch personally. For that, he orders his lackey to prepare plus-sized school uniforms. Min-jae quickly responds positively, ready to follow his boss's command. Bro is on cloud 9 knowing his boss is stepping up personally. He is sure as hell that the bitch is as good as dead. Even his goons are startled to see that satisfied, sinister grin on his face. They too are sure that Min-jae must be scoring quite big for him to celebrate the moment like this. Somewhere in a secluded area, Ah-jin and the chick arrive at a mansion. The girl proceeds to get inside, while our boy follows suit, though he feels a bit reluctant to walk right into someone else's private property. Seeing his hesitation, the girl wholeheartedly welcomes him into her home, wanting him to be comfortable. Witnessing the grandeur of the place, anyone would be starstruck and rethink their situation, and our boy is no exception. The girl is very exhausted and reclines back on the couch lifelessly, letting her body rest. Ah-jin suddenly notices something interesting. There is a portrait of a happy family of 3, which also features this chick. This clearly means it's her and her family in that picture. Naturally, the boy wants to know if this house belongs to her. The girl responds positively, though she wouldn't call it her residence. For her, this is just a backup, a safe house nestled within the mountains, away from prying eyes. It serves as a good hiding spot. The boy is still staring at the portrait of the once happy family, making the girl believe that he is simply captivated by her cuteness. The boy remains silent even at her teasing, much to her annoyance. The girl doesn't like how he is treating her and acting like the adult, even though she is the older one here. Annoyed, she starts choking him, wanting to show him who is calling the shots. Bro is fed up with her bullshit and yanks her the fuck away, leaving her crashing onto the ground. As she writhes in pain, my guy explodes in a full-blown tirade. He doesn't like the fact that she is also one of those cyber wreckers or drivers, or whatever the hell they are called. She has a big mansion and a luxury car, which clearly indicates that she isn't some average Joe. For her to be helping him, she must think of herself as some hotshot acting like Robin Hood. Since this wannabe Mr. Misery merchant isn't willing to trust her one bit, she finally decides to drop the bomb. Her parents in that photo? Yep, they are dead already. The cause of their tragic death is the same as his sister's. They too were victims of the very same cyber wreckers. This revelation leaves the boy utterly shocked, as it wasn't something he was expecting to hear. The girl promises to unravel and expand on the details, but bit by bit. For now, she suggests he refreshes himself with a well-deserved warm bath. A while later, this discount version of Ken Kaneki lets himself drown in his thoughts while soaking in the warm shower. He tries to recall all the pleasant memories of the past, back when he was just a kid. The company name he noticed in the background of that girl's family photo holds some fond memories, but Ah-jin can't seem to recall them properly. From what he can remember, he realizes that he was a big sucker for the fried dumplings this company sold back then. He would always insist his mother let him eat this overly processed, highly unhealthy consumable, but she always showed resistance. There was once news that exposed how these dumplings were produced using expired food leftovers. Since he had been craving dumplings so badly, she promised to fetch some handmade ones. Even though his little sister was just as small and adorable as him, she expressed traits of maturity beyond her years. She knew that what her brother liked was total trash, a comment that infuriated our little protagonist back then. The news about that company using expired ingredients for their products was all over the place. The scandal caught so much fire that the owners of that company preferred taking their own lives, rather than living under the crushing weight of society's pressure. And those owners were that chick's parents. A while later, we once again catch a glimpse of the girl, chugging down beer and refreshing herself with some snacks after a satisfying bath. Our boy joins her and grabs a dumpling to eat. Seeing how he just started eating without asking for permission, the girl assumes that he must like dumplings a lot. Well, that's true, and Ah-jin doesn't hesitate to admit it. Pushing the conversation further, Ah-jin brazenly demands she teach him those slick moves she knows. He wants to become a pro fighter like her and exact revenge against those bastards who wronged his family. The girl likes his spirit but wants him to realize that he isn't alone in this. After all, she shares the same goal, the same destination, and the same intentions. And so far, she hasn't achieved her goals either. Ah-jin doesn't realize what she is trying to say. The girl decides to state it bluntly. It's not just his revenge, it's their revenge, and they will be in this together from this point onward. Once again, Ah-jin is clueless, not knowing how their partnership is going to work. The girl decides to act as his shield, while he will act as her ultimate weapon. She wants him to become her sharp spear, while she, being the shield, safeguards them from the oncoming assault of arrows. Ah-jin will be the assailant who shreds his enemies to pieces. Well, as far as Ah-jin is concerned, if the enemy decides to pull out guns, they are as good as cooked. Of course, his obtuse response cracks the hell out of her. Ah-jin apologizes for the little joke he made. He understands the implications, and isn't that useless? Both goofballs go on like this for the entire night. Honestly, this is the first time Ah-jin has felt alive ever since his sister's tragic death. He also understands what this girl is going through and what her intentions are. The doubts he once harbored against her have now diminished. It's almost midnight, and we find Min-jae still busy planning their next course of action with his lackeys. He assigns his dim-witted underlings the task of luring that girl right to Junggu-hyung. However, Gi-tae indirectly shows his reluctance and objects to Min-jae's idea. He suggests another, easier way of dealing with it. Of course, this gets the ignorant and arrogant Min-jae all riled up. He hates how his dog is trying to correct his master. Just as he is about to punish his underling by striking him, Gi-tae grabs his angry boss's hand in midair like it's no big deal. Gi-tae makes it clear that the shit Min-jae is asking for is way above his pay grade, and he isn't taking any orders unless he gets the due amount. Still annoyed, the redhead yanks his hand away and promises to pay him the amount he deserves, though he needs some time, since he can only pay once Junggu-hyung transfers some funds to him. Well, Gi-tae isn't willing to take his patron's word for it. No money, no work, simple as that. For all he cares, Min-jae can call this man named Junggu himself. However, Gi-tae proposes another, safer plan. They should use another method to lure out that chick. Then they can call Junggu-hyung and let him deal with that chick. Min-jae protests, as he feels it is irresponsible to call his boss unless they have a very solid reason. Gi-tae further proposes creating that very situation. If they mess with Ah-jin, he is damn sure that the blue-haired bitch will come following him. By doing so, they can gather Junggu-hyung as well as our duo at the same place. The next morning arrives, and Ah-jin is woken up by a phone call interrupting his sleep. Not only is he interrupted, but he finds himself in shock when he learns that the person on the other end of the call is Gi-tae. What's worse is that the bastard is about to mess with his mother, who is already hospitalized. To prove their point further, Gi-tae even shares a photo flashing a peace sign next to his mother's unconscious body. This totally flips Ah-jin's switch. They also demand he bring out his girlfriend, but Ah-jin is furious beyond limits and hangs up the call. With resentment boiling over, his resolve to take revenge against those cyber wreckers deepens even further. He is willing to become the sharp spear Saori wanted him to be. Back at the hospital, while Min-jae is grinding his nails in anxiety, Gi-tae is also losing his shit because Ah-jin is late. Min-jae is only worried because he feels calling his boss here is a massive mistake. However, Gi-tae is confident in his plan. Let's not forget about the fatty. He seems to be the only sane person out here, realizing that coming all the way to a hospital to harass someone with a disabled mother is hitting a new low. Right at that moment, the terrifying boss of Min-jae, Junggu, arrives in the ward. Not even a second passes before the redhead is bobbing his head down, making sure he is paying due respect to his senior. However, Junggu walks past his underling as he glances around, trying to figure out this setting. For a moment, his eyes land on Gi-tae, who also bows his head in respect. But the big guy isn't here for this crap and demands to know where that bitch is. The redhead is quick to respond, assuring his boss that Ah-jin is already on his way here with his girlfriend. Junggu then questions why they are here of all places. After all, they were supposed to be in school, so it makes no sense for them to be standing here in a hospital ward. The redhead hesitates to respond, having no clue how to cover up this mess. However, he doesn't need to rationalize their situation, because Gi-tae claims it was his idea. The big guy walks up to Gi-tae and poses a weird question, wondering if he executed this ridiculous plan for money. He slaps Gi-tae without any warning, like he is hitting a toddler. After all, he was supposed to encounter that chick in the school, not here. Gi-tae tries to defend his absurd idea, claiming it was the most efficient and fastest way to bring her out. His excuse earns him yet another slap, because that wasn't exactly what Junggu was expecting to hear. Those humiliating slaps sting, and they sting Gi-tae's ego even more. Even the two goofballs on the sidelines have no clue what the hell is going on. As if on cue, our boy arrives just in time. The boy ignores everyone in the room and rushes with lightning speed toward his mother's bed. Seeing that she is doing fine, he feels momentarily relieved. Directing his attention toward the goons in the room, he confronts them for their theatrics. The top dog in the room also turns his attention to this high schooler. He seems quite pleased, meeting Ah-jin for the first time in his life. Naturally, Ah-jin is confused about who the hell this clown is. Junggu isn't interested in responding to the boy's queries. Instead, he pulls out his phone and shows Saori's picture, wanting Ah-jin to respond if he is familiar with the girl. Ah-jin, on the other hand, is busy battling his own curiosity. Not only is he unaware of this new character, but he also notices that those goons on the sidelines are looking scared shitless for some odd reason. The mystery that these guys are after Saori only makes everything more convoluted. Junggu breaks the silence by pointing out that the chick in the photo is supposed to be our boy's girlfriend. Of course, Ah-jin denies such a bullshit assumption. Well, that wasn't exactly what Junggu was expecting to hear. Our boy doubles down on what he just said. Gi-tae, the one who had suggested the idea of that chick being Ah-jin's girlfriend, starts yelling at our boy, accusing him of lying. Junggu once again wants the kid to confirm if what he is saying is true, and our boy remains unhinged from his stance. However, Gitai continues to accuse Ajin of lying. In order to verify if Ajin is lying, the bastard gives our boy a scary look and threatens him with his mother. Even then, Ajin isn't budging. Seeing this, Gitai shouts even louder, threatening him to start parroting the truth if he wants to live. At this point, Junggu has figured out what is going on. He walks up to Gitai and grabs him by the hair like some fucked up dog, then follows up by delivering yet another devastating cheek clap. That single hit flattens Gitai's cheeks like a pancake, with blood spitting out of his nose. From what Junggu can tell, Gitai knows shit about our boy, and that's exactly what Junggu dislikes about this situation. He hates being deceived and lied to, so he unleashes divine punishment by bestowing a barrage of brain-scrambling slaps that leave everyone's balls climbing up into their throats. The slaps continue until Gitai screams for him to halt. Surprisingly, the beating comes to a halt for a moment, giving Gitai a second to question why he is getting sucked up like this. Junggu releases the grip on Gitai's hair before making his reason clear. It's obvious that Ajin admitted he has no affiliation with that woman, and that's the only reason Gitai earned all that beating. Of course, the bruised and battered, dim-witted bully is angry at Ajin, thinking he put him in this tough position. Out of anger, he goes as far as to charge forward with his fist targeted at Ajin. But since Junggu is standing between both of them, he uses his slick moves to slither away from Gitai's oncoming onslaught and then lands a gut-wrenching jab, leaving Gitai doubling over on the ground. With the menace put to rest, Junggu turns to our boy and quizzes him with a million-dollar question. This scary man wants Ajin to ponder the identity of the culprit who killed his sister. Well, that unexpected question forces the boy to think beyond his current situation. The man once again grabs Gitai by his hair and starts beating the shit out of him, all the while forcing Ajin to think about who was behind his mother's hospitalization and his sister's death. These strong questions eventually make Ajin seek answers. Every rumor and every false statement released against Lee Ari, literally anything that she didn't commit, was fabricated by only two bastards. It was Gitai and Minjae, but the one who turned them into soulless devils was this bastard Junggu. He would pay Minjae for fabricating false evidence against Lee Ari, and Gitai was his accomplice who also got a portion of the payment. These bastards were happy to get paid for his sister's blood. Eventually, Junggu gets tired of beating up this human-sized piñata. While our boy has figured out most of the stuff, he still has to figure out one thing. Why did Junggu need a fabricated video? And why did he target his sister in particular? He is dying to have these questions answered. So Ajin musters up his courage and takes his stance against this bastard, wanting him to spill all the beans. For a moment, Junggu feels surprised, then gets amused to see this weakling clown feeling so bold. The overly emotional boy's feelings take over, and he delivers a well-placed punch to the bastard's face. However, as fast as that punch might be, it doesn't do shit against this towering bastard built like a tank. Hell, bro isn't even mad after getting hit. He finds Ajin's attempt rather adorable and pinches his cheek like he is some gullible kid. Even a monster like him realizes that it's not appropriate to escalate things in a patient's ward, and decides to postpone their confrontation for another day. In their next meeting, Junggu promises to quote the name of his sister's killer. But then again, not that it matters anymore, since a powerless kid like Ajin can't do shit. He twirls around to leave, while our boy's ass kisses the ground after he stumbles over himself. Junggu orders his redhead underling to put Gitai into a wheelchair and drag him out of there. With that, the lackey begins pushing the wheelchair occupied by the unconscious body of Gitai. Before exiting the door, Junggu promises to spill all the juicy details once his mother wakes up from her slumber. After all, she too has the right to learn the name of the man responsible for her daughter's death. With those final words, Ajin is left alone with his mother in the ward. Well, not alone actually, because I almost forgot about the fat ass who almost scares our boy to death by poking him from behind. As the scared Ajin turns around, he is greeted by this crying mess of a fat fuck, shedding tears like a humiliated bitch. Ajin strongly reacts to his presence since he is one of the bullies too. The whiny bitch apologizes, claiming he didn't know that the shit would turn into a full-blown mess. In order to explain himself, he begins unraveling his side of the story. One day, when Bagan was just staring at his fangirl account, he was jolted back to his senses by a stinging slap from Minjae. Lately, the girl he was gooning over was none other than Lee Ari, our boy's sister. She was an idol who had just transferred into this school. The redhead didn't understand why this gooner was sniping pictures of someone he couldn't even dream of reaching. As it turned out, the fatty was balls deep into whiz girl culture, and he was one of the handlers of a fan account. So, it was basically his job to take photos of whiz girls. He usually received DMs on his fangirl account asking for pictures, with buyers willing to pay 100,000 won for each. He refused to stoop that low since he is a bona fide whiz girl fan. This was the moment a sinister plan took birth in the redhead's head. It was an opportunity to get rich he couldn't miss, so he threatened Bagan to hand over his fangirl account. 2 weeks passed, and Minjae was keeping a close eye on Lee Ari's every movement. He had thoroughly familiarized himself with her schedule and daily routine just so he wouldn't miss any opportunity to take photos. Lately, no one was requesting Lee Ari's pictures because the previous backlog of images consisted of very similar photos, and buyers needed some fresh stuff. That's why Bagan often ended up beaten for not getting good pictures. One day, the redhead received a custom order of images. The buyer was willing to offer thrice the price if the pictures were taken according to his liking. As much as the redhead was enticed by the offer, he was equally skeptical. Since he was only given 60 seconds to make his decision, Min-jae was further put into a dilemma, wondering if someone was pulling his leg. So, he decided to ask for 100% payment in advance. Only then would he proceed with the order. As soon as he sent the account details, a deposit of 3 million won hit his bank account, a shock that left him sweating. With the payment done as promised, Min-jae was supposed to deliver images for 10 days consecutively, with a strict 24-hour deadline. Min-jae was still in disbelief. What just happened felt like a dream come true. He eventually exploded into maniacal excitement, thinking he had hit the jackpot. What was more baffling was the fact that taking those pictures was a piece of cake. In simple words, Min-jae was getting paid a fortune for barely putting in any effort. So, 9 days passed like a breeze, with Min-jae duly sending pictures to his patron. Just like anyone with a few brain cells would, Bagan was skeptical of this setup. After all, no one is dumb enough to pay a fortune for a few clicks. However, the short-sighted Min-jae didn't suspect anything. He justified his actions, insisting that nothing could go wrong taking a few harmless pics. That's when everything started to become obvious. His client started asking him for images of Lee Ari that included specific scenes, such as, she must be smiling in the photo, she must be holding a cigarette, and she must appear as if she is hanging out with female delinquents. Of course, these specific instructions had the redhead completely riled up. After getting into the habit of easy work, these instructions felt a little demanding to him. But then again, he had no choice since he had been paid for this work already. He decided to simply send a random click. However, he was soon hit by a terrifying reality check. He couldn't run away from the shit he had signed up for, since his every action was being monitored by his client. His client even had a picture of him currently sitting in the park. Min-jae instinctively began sweating, realizing that he was balls deep in trouble. This idiot even exposed his name the moment he sent his bank account details. His client even knew Min-jae was looking around desperately, trying to pinpoint the man surveilling him. Anyhow, since Min-jae realized that he was doing some fucked up shit anyway, he decided to negotiate the price for the last batch of clicks he was supposed to send. He even promised to share a proper video of her if he was paid extra. He knew that no one could do better than him in this school. He impatiently awaited his client's response on whether he accepted his offer of 900,000 won for the last batch of clicks and video. The client teased him for his greed and eventually ended up subverting Min-jae's expectations by sending him a round figure of 1 million won. Min-jae hadn't even recovered from the shock when his client dropped yet another thunderbolt. If Min-jae ended up producing good results, he would be rewarded with another batch of 1 million won. As you can see, it was a slow and deliberate movement that truly pushed Min-jae to take the path of a demon. Even his fatty friend was absolutely scared of his friend at this point. The next day arrived when Lee Ari found herself surrounded by a bunch of chicks that truly belonged to the streets. They teased the girl with their subtle jokes and flattered her with compliments. After all, she was an idol for a reason. These delinquent girls were intentionally acting chummy. Once they had the situation under control, one of the girls decided to take Lee Ari along with them to the tuck shop. The girl grabbed her and forcibly dragged her with them. Since Lee Ari had never been to a snack shop before, she was excited to pay a visit. This revelation came as a great surprise to the delinquent girl. And what was more shocking was that Lee Ari didn't have any friends. This gave the delinquent woman a perfect opportunity to get closer, and she introduced herself as Ha-young. And this is how those girls finally won over Lee Ari, who was an unsuspecting prey failing to see through the trap she was falling into. Bagan, on the other hand, was watching everything play out against her. Back then, Bagan wasn't sure what to think of this situation. On one side, he was getting to see his favorite idol up close, but on the other hand, he was an accomplice conspiring behind her back. This left Bagan conflicted between two distinct and opposite emotions. A few days passed, and that girl Ha-young lured Lee Ari to the back of the school building after pretending to take her to the tuck shop. When Lee Ari inquired what they were doing there, Ha-young played her cards well and showed a bruise mark on her neck. That charlatan began spewing some bullshit sob story about how her drunken father hit her last night. Once she had complete control over the situation, she decided to play her final card. She pulled out a cigarette, supposedly meant to soothe her mental stress. Since Lee Ari is her friend, she offered her a cigarette too, wanting her to accompany her. She claimed she would feel better if they smoked together. Of course, Lee Ari was terrified at the thought of smoking, but that manipulative goddess gaslit her to the point that Lee Ari wasn't even aware of herself before she grabbed that cigarette. Right then, the other bitches also popped up right into the scene, all there to gaslight the poor girl even further. While those girls surrounded Lee Ari, making her feel uncomfortable with all their manipulative and gaslighting bullshit, that redhead asshole was recording it all. And that's how Minjae accomplished his first news report video. Back in the present, our boy is stunned to hear this side of the story, and he is curious about what the fatty means by news report. The whiny mess of fat is still crying like a kid while further clarifying that the job of taking the pictures and videos that Yoongu requested was called reporting. Ajin grabs the trash by his collar and demands he spill the other beans too. Right at that moment, Saori enters the chat. The moment her eyes land on the filthy face of this fat ass, she is absolutely pissed and literally teleports from her spot, only to kick the piece of shit hard, making sure he is knocked out. While the girl feels very good after venting some of her steam with that jaw-breaking kick, Ajin's butt kisses the floor as the reality of the situation sinks in. He is exasperated after learning about the culprit behind his mother and sister's situation. He eventually cracks the hell up, having no clue how he is going to protect his mother if those bastards come after her. Saori eventually snaps him out of his frenzied situation. However, the mental breakdown Ajin is having causes him to lose consciousness. The weight of it all is just too much for his weak heart to handle. In the hospital's parking lot, our boy rests inside Saori's G-Wagon, while she's busy reporting the gist of her situation to someone over the phone. After assuring the recipient that everything is sailing smoothly, she promises to visit them soon, along with her new friend. With that, she hangs up and turns her attention toward Bagan, ordering him to step a little closer. Unsurprisingly, the guy is quaking in his boots, dreading the worst. Reluctantly, he gets right up in her face as ordered. Saori begins to scrutinize him, unsure if it's wise to believe the story he just fed them. She even threatens the pig with dire consequences if she catches him lying. Desperate, Bagan doubles down, trying to convince her that he's telling the truth. Since Saori doesn't have much else to go on, she decides to buy his words for the time being. She asks him what he's planning next. He isn't exactly thrilled to admit that his friend Gitai took a severe beating, so it goes without saying that the guy is out of commission for now. As for that bastard Minjae, well, he can't do shit, at least not without Gitai's brute strength. This leaves only him, and he promptly gets a swift bonk on the head from Saori. She wants the scumbag to pay for the crap he pulled with his equally trashy friends. Naturally, Bagan starts shedding tears like a little bitch, and promises to do whatever she wants. He also makes sure to apologize to her for his wrongdoings. However, Saori makes it clear that she isn't the one who deserves the apology. It's the guy resting in the G-Wagon. And let's not forget about his sister. Even if she's in heaven, she deserves an apology too. The scene then abruptly cuts to the hospital ward where Ajin's mother is admitted. Shockingly, she finally regains consciousness, only to find 3 bastards looming over her bed. It's Junggu and his goons, out there to intimidate the poor patient to death. They're recording a video as that prick Junggu prepares to pummel her with slaps. Meanwhile, Ajin is watching everything unfold from outside the door, standing there helplessly. Even his deceased sister's specter appears out of nowhere, haunting him with a grim question he'd been asking himself for a while now. Why is he just standing there instead of doing something? Thankfully, his absolute misery ends the moment his eyes snap open in the real world, completely out of breath. Saori is also in the room, sarcastically hoping he had a pleasant time sleeping. After all, the bed he's occupying is supposedly the exact same model Drake has in his Toronto mansion. While the girl is totally in the mood for banter, Ajin lunges at her. He's still reeling from watching his mother get violently slapped by Junggu in that harrowing nightmare. With pure dread washing over his face, he yells at her, demanding to know if his mom is doing all right. He's utterly terrified that Junggu will actually go after her. The nonchalant girl isn't having any of it. The spit flying out of his mouth and landing right over her face is something she simply won't tolerate. So, to shut his trap, she shoves him back, dropping him onto the bed. To spice up the scene further, she climbs on top of him, putting the kid in a highly vulnerable position. She just wants this dude to calm the hell down. The mother he's so worried about has already been transferred to a secure location with strict entry restrictions. In short, Junggu and his lackeys can't touch her. Now that Ajin's immediate worries have been washed away, there's something else making him feel incredibly awkward. Well, she's literally straddling him, and her heavy chest is hanging right in his face, putting Ajin in a very tight spot. Realizing how uncomfortable he is, Saori decides to capitalize on the opportunity and starts messing with him even more. For a gooner like him, it's way too much to handle. The final straw drops when she starts tickling his ear with her warm breath. Redlining his goonometer, the boy can't take it anymore and literally flings her off the bed. Saori, on the other hand, is thoroughly enjoying herself. She's found a raw nerve she can pinch anytime she wants a little entertainment. Regardless, she can tell he's feeling better, which the boy confirms. She eventually gets up and decides to catch some sleep herself, since there's still plenty of time before the sun comes up. After promising to explain their current situation in detail once they wake up, she flicks off his room lights and heads out. Ajin slumps back down. Although he claimed to be fine, he actually isn't. The weight of the entire ordeal is numbing his brain, causing his eyes to well up with tears. Truth be told, even Saori knew he wasn't over his trauma. She was just testing his patience while lingering right outside his door. Still, the sassy queen was entirely ready to comfort him with her body warmth if he had asked. But that's the kind of opportunity a beta male like him couldn't even fathom. A fresh day begins with the teacher expressing his intense disappointment over students skipping school. Furthermore, the rumor that Gitai was allegedly in a car accident only makes the teacher more skeptical. He can see the school's decorum slipping out of routine and demands the class rep report any student caught pulling shady shit. Hearing this announcement of strict surveillance causes Bagan to sweat bullets. Min-jae, meanwhile, is completely chill about the situation. Once class ends, Bagan is still trying to process everything, so he's completely scared shitless the moment Min-jae clamps a hand over his shoulder. The big guy wants to have a little chat, leaving the poor dude dreading the worst. The scene then transitions back to Sayori's lavish pad, where the two are having breakfast. Mid-bite, Sayori suddenly remembers it's Monday, meaning they're supposed to be at school. She immediately whips out her phone, impersonates Ajin's cousin, and convinces the teacher that Ajin is sick and needs the day off. With his absence excused, Sayori decides to capitalize on the opportunity and teach her Johnny boy something new. That's right, she's going to teach him how to fight against the likes of Junggu, the exact kind of scum who ruined his sister's life. Ajin, however, is already entirely convinced he doesn't stand a chance against Junggu, no matter what he does. The girl quickly reminds him of his earlier conviction, how he literally asked her to teach him a few moves just so he could protect himself. For starters, she plans to walk him through the basics, but before jumping straight into the physical beatdown, she makes sure to drill some theory into him. Slipping into a full-on teacher stance, she hits him with a pop quiz. What exactly do cyber wreckers do? Even Ajin is a little startled to see her completely flip the switch on her mood. Pushing the distraction aside, he answers that cyber wreckers are the types who humiliate their targets over the internet. Yet, he's totally clueless about their endgame, what they actually achieve by pulling this crap. The best guess he can muster is that they just want to farm YouTube views. Beyond that, they probably just get a kick out of making fools out of the weak. While his teacher appreciates the answer, she still decides to reward him with an unexpected high kick aimed straight at his face. The boy hastily ducks away, narrowly saving his face from becoming a bloody mess. While he's busy bitching about the impromptu strike, Sayori casually reminds him that this is part of his physical training. Naturally, Ajin thinks the chick has lost her damn mind, but he isn't given a second to argue before she launches yet another sweeping leg strike, which he barely survives by ducking again. She missed? Don't worry, the crazy girl lunges at him a third time like he owes her money. This time she's coming in hot with a balled-up fist aimed right at his nose. The punch lands squarely as intended. The only catch is that a terrified Ajin managed to slap a book over his face at the last millisecond. Otherwise, his brains would have been totally scrambled. Sayori finally calms down, ready to hear what he has to say. The boy loudly protests that he didn't sign up for this shit. All he desired was to learn about cyber wreckers. His whining causes the girl to break into a fit of laughter, right before she literally jabs him in the face with a perfectly placed strike. The scene then promptly shifts over to Min-jae and his fatty friend having a little chat. Bagan drops to his knees, utterly fed up with the whole situation. He wants to resign from his position as a bully and begs Min-jae to do the same. Bagan's sincere plea comes off as a hilarious joke to Min-jae, who subtly threatens him with the consequences of backing out. Still, the poor guy begs. He's even willing to surrender his entire allowance and act as Min-jae's private gopher, just as long as they quit this dirty line of work. Min-jae, on the other hand, isn't the least bit thrilled by the idea. Judging by the satanic glare he's giving Bagan, it's crystal clear the poor guy won't be getting an easy out from this mess. We then cut back to our boy Ajin and his messed up nose. From their brutal little game of tag, Sayori has managed to realize one thing. Ajin actually possesses ninja-like reflexes. What he severely lacks, however, is the skill to retaliate with counter-strikes. Ajin doesn't think he's the one with the skill issue. He's convinced her teaching methods are fundamentally broken. Ignoring his complaints, the girl diverts his attention to her laptop screen, wanting him to observe these hyper-optimized video clickbaits that people can barely resist clicking. It's this exact clickbait that funnels massive traffic toward the uploaded videos, and with high traffic comes equally high ad revenue. Live streams also serve as a lucrative alternative to rake in crazy money, especially since creators can milk their viewers by begging for donations and super chats. Common sense dictates that these cyber wreckers do it purely for the cash, but Sayori reckons some of them just do it for the sick thrill of it. She then brings up Min-jae. Starting tomorrow, she wants Ajin to investigate the bastard and dig up more clues about Junggu in the process. Furthermore, she strictly orders him not to miss physical training after school, noting that she has specifically picked out an English taekwondo gym for him to attend. The next day during class, Ajin is observing Min-jae like a hawk. He is literally trembling with an uncontrollable resentment toward the bully that he can barely keep in check. He is itching to make this bastard confess to every single crime he's committed. Meanwhile, Sayori is also surveilling Min-jae's movements from a neighboring building using a telescope. While keeping watch, she's simultaneously entertaining a phone call from her senior. The senior is pissed at her for keeping Ajin's involvement a secret. However, the girl argues that there simply wasn't any time to brief him, considering how hectic shit has been over the past few days. Regardless, this caller, who goes by the name Mega Whale, concludes that Junggu is a massive fish they absolutely need to fry. The fact that this prick was an actual mixed martial arts fighter before pivoting to his shitty YouTube career only makes his current actions all the more suspicious. Back when he was pursuing his MMA career, the dude had such a screw loose that he would continue beating his opponents long after they had surrendered. Because of this, Mega Whale explicitly warns her to avoid any direct physical confrontations with Junggu. After cautioning her a bit more about the perilous situation she's wading into, he finally hangs up. Sayori, as usual, brushes it off, thinking the guy is just being overly protective. Fast forward to after school, and we find Min-jae pinned aggressively against a wall, getting interrogated by Ah-jin. Our boy wants him to spill all the beans regarding his involvement in his sister's death. However, Min-jae simply keeps his head lowered, his lips zipped tight. Just as Ah-jin is about to lose his patience completely, the greatest Oscar-winning performance of the century begins. That bastard Min-jae starts shedding massive crocodile tears, tearfully admitting that he deserves absolute punishment for his crimes. Of course, Ah-jin didn't come here to attend a pity party, he wants solid answers. And just when Ah-jin's temper hits the boiling point, the bastard dials his performance up to 11. He openly surrenders his life to Ah-jin, claiming he is willing to spend the rest of his days atoning for the sister's death. Ah-jin is absolutely losing his bananas, demanding the bastard drop the pathetic act. After all, he was entirely unprepared for this scummy bully to start whining like a traumatized toddler. Ah-jin decides to let the scumbag off the hook for now, though not without a stern warning. If Min-jae ever shows his face in front of him again, he's as good as dead. Min-jae keeps up his Bollywood-grade acting, slumping over his knees and continuously begging. Eventually, Ah-jin manages to swallow his fury, turning on his heel to leave. Once Ah-jin is finally out of sight, we get a closer look at the supposedly devastated Min-jae, who was just begging for his life. A highly creepy smile slowly stretches across his face, followed by a dark laugh. It's a crystal clear indication that he has officially played Ah-jin like a fiddle. The fool foolishly approached him, actually thinking he could extract the answers he wanted. And let's not forget about Bagan, who was hiding nearby, secretly recording every single second of the encounter on his phone. He scuttles over and hands the phone back to Min-jae. The footage Bagan just shot is incredibly damning. It makes Ah-jin look like an unhinged villain, while Min-jae appears to be nothing more than an innocent, helpless student deserving of pity and compassion. The bastard gives Bagan major props for capturing such a cinematic masterpiece. Now you might be ready to direct all your hate at the fatty's ass for doing this, but just take a look at his face. The poor guy's face is completely wrecked, a bruised canvas perfectly reflecting the masterclass beating Min-jae gave him earlier. Looking at the video, Min-jae is damn sure that this evidence will be more than enough to perfectly frame Ah-jin as the school's ultimate bully. We then cut back to our boy, spending some lonely downtime up on the school's roof. Right at that moment, Sayori pops up, questioning his sinking mood. Ah-jin, however, is more curious as to why she even bothered showing up. Noticing his bruised hands, she naturally demands to know what happened. Ah-jin lies, claiming he just tripped and took a bad fall, and stubbornly insists she stop pestering him. Of course, the girl is pissed. Not only is he lying blatantly, but he's actively trying to ignore her. She explodes into a full-blown tirade. She can easily tell he's been in a fight, something she strictly warned him against. Even if he boasts godlike reflexes, he's still just an infant when it comes to actual combat. The boy ignores her lecture and warns her to get the hell out of there. The school is already on high alert looking for outsiders and troublemakers, and if she gets caught, shit will only get more complicated. Shifting gears, Sayori quizzes him on his investigation. Did he manage to dig up any leads about Junggu and Min-jae's true nature? Funny she should ask. As we already know, Ah-jin clearly had a run-in with that bastard. He explains how Min-jae broke down into a crying mess and apologized. Ah-jin admits he desperately wanted to pummel the scumbag to death, but he froze up, feeling puzzled and entirely unsure of what to do. Hearing this, Sayori realizes that his soft heart has become a noose around his neck. If he continues acting like a happy-go-lucky pony, he can entirely forget about exacting any revenge. He simply ain't built for that shit yet. So, to harden him up physically and mentally, she announces the commencement of a brand new training regimen tailored specifically for him. Eventually, Ah-jin finds himself staring at the entrance of a martial arts dojo. This is ground zero, where they'll start his training to become a hardened fighter. Inside, two kids are already busy duking it out. It seems Sayori is familiar with them. The girl is Yeji and the little boy is Wooju. Spotting Sayori, Yeji beams with happiness at seeing her senior. As she's doting on the kids, the big cheese of the dojo arrives. Meet Jerry, the chief master of this English taekwondo gym. Spotting Ah-jin standing there, Jerry instantly feels the itch to use the boy's face as a punching bag for some reason. Sayori introduces the kid to her senior, and the slightly disheveled dojo master reciprocates by greeting the young lad. Wasting no time, this crusty master hypes up the kids by circulating the absurd rumor that Ah-jin is Sayori's new boyfriend. While the kids are totally astonished and buzzing with excitement, Sayori plays right along, acting as if they make a great couple. Dropping the act shortly after, she asks Jerry about their other seniors' whereabouts. Jerry assures her that Young is busy, noting that their top priority right now is serving this young lad well. Out of nowhere, Jerry wraps Ajin up over his shoulder in a rock-solid grip, causing the boy to squirm in sheer pain. Having successfully handed Ajin's responsibility over to better hands, Sayori pays her respects and heads out, hoping Jerry will help forge Ajin into the man he needs to be. Poor Ajin has absolutely no clue what the hell is going on, and the menacing way Jerry is looking at him doesn't give him good vibes. The scene then transitions back to Sayori, who is on another phone call with that mysterious username, Mega Whale. Once she reports that she successfully handed Ajin over to the young master, the caller issues a stern warning. She must never disclose her true occupation to Ajin. Sayori agrees but points out she isn't entirely sure if there's anything left that Ajin doesn't already know. Regardless, the man is harboring serious doubts about whether Ajin has what it takes to be the driver they need. Then again, it's too early to draw conclusions. He recalls how Junggu was once a driver too, and they have finally figured out who his wrecker is. However, to get to the wrecker, they must shadow Junggu closely. Ajin is the only person who can help them in this endeavor. That's exactly why they need him as their driver, someone who can actually go toe-to-toe with Junggu. Sayori objects, believing it's way too early for Ajin to handle that kind of pressure. Her senior simply assures her that he will decide when to pull the trigger. As a driver herself, her only job is to stay prepared for the next set of orders. Cutting back to our boy, he is currently getting pummeled by a group of cute little gangsta kids swarming all over him. Poor Ajin is literally getting his soul drained out of his body because he can barely put up with this chaotic shit. Right then, a new face joins the scene. Ajin's presence is unfamiliar to her, making her curious about the new guy. The kids immediately gather to pay their respects, indicating she is yet another senior working at the dojo. Jerry steps in to introduce Ajin, but before he can even open his mouth, the little kids beat him to it, proudly announcing Ajin as Sayori's boyfriend. As it turns out, Sayori had already informed the woman about her friend joining for special training. She introduces herself as Choi Yuk-young, the instructor's wife. Our boy responds politely, making sure to take this opportunity to firmly clarify that he is not Sayori's boyfriend. Before proceeding any further, Yuk-young decides to wrap up today's session and drop the kids off at their homes. Stuck in the van between noisy kids, our boy is completely clueless about his role in all of this. Bit by bit, Jerry and Yuk-young drop off the kids, while Ajin is still trying to figure out the nature of his upcoming training. He literally dozes off in his seat, skipping straight to the moment when he's the only passenger left. When he finally steps out of the van at Jerry's insistence, he finds himself in the middle of nowhere. Surprise! Jerry wants the boy to run all the way back to the dojo from this exact spot. Calculating the total stretch, it's a grueling 15-kilometer sprint. After wishing him good luck, both Jerry and his wife speed off in the van, leaving a stunned Ajin to chase after them. Inside the van, Jerry highly doubts Ajin has the guts to brave through this brutal test. Yuk-young, however, thinks it's too early to deduce anything. For now, they just need to focus on showing the kid the ropes, exactly as Sayori requested. A while passes, and we circle back to the English Taekwondo dojo. Ajin has miraculously made it, though he is exhausted as fuck. His soul has literally left his body, and he is desperately trying to inhale it back ASAP. The couple, meanwhile, is watching the exhausted kid from a second-floor window, thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. The sight reminds them of Sayori back when she was in the exact same shoes. The moment the kid finally collapses from pure fatigue, Jerry figures he still has a long way to go, so the couple drags his limp body inside. A few moments later, Ajin wakes up and is immediately served water to help replenish and revitalize his fried nervous system. Jerry proudly announces that the kid has officially passed the entry test. They aren't entirely sure why the kid is volunteering to endure this hell to get stronger, but they assure him they are willing to help, as long as he can keep up. Ajin displays nothing but pure conviction and determination. With the doubts cleared, Yuk-young decides to lay out the ground rules before they get into the thick of it. Rule number 1. If Ajin ever feels like giving up, he always has the option to pack up and go home. Rule number 2. Joining this training regimen means Ajin will have to treat this dojo as his new home. Eating, sleeping, taking a dump, Ajin will be doing it all right here. Lastly, he is warned to stay cautious rather than acting reckless. Now that the rules are crystal clear, it's finally time for Jerry to officially welcome Ajin into the Taekwondo family. And thus the grueling routine of daily exercises begins. First and foremost, Ajin puts heavy emphasis on building his stamina. Only then does he shift his focus to building raw strength. But it's not just physical strength that matters. Mental fortitude is equally crucial. And what better way to train that than getting tangled up with those little devils who test his patience to the absolute limit every single day. Nonetheless, Ajin keeps his sanity in check, grinding through this rigorous loop of training day in and day out. A considerably large chunk of time goes by with Ajin basically living the exact same day on repeat. The only difference? He is steadily improving. Back at school, he relaxes on the rooftop, reporting his current progress back to Saori. The girl is proud of the strides he's made and casually inquires about Minjae. As it turns out, Minjae has been awfully quiet lately. And well, only we know exactly why that is. Taking control of the conversation, he questions her position. The girl is startled by his unexpected inquiry, but responds positively. She is eating and sleeping well. Well, that wasn't exactly what Ah-jin wanted to know. He was looking for a report on Jung Jung-gu, specifically, whether Saori's investigation had actually led anywhere. He had been keeping an eye on Jung-gu's YouTube videos, noting that the viewership was starting to run dry. When he questions her the reason behind it, Saori's mood sinks immediately. The realization that he wasn't checking on her out of genuine concern is stinging. Regardless, she satisfies his curiosity by explaining that she is after a much bigger fish, the person pulling Jung-gu's strings. Ah-jin acknowledges this and falls silent, while Saori waits for him to say more. Something personal, like telling her to take care? But Ah-jin is a Sigma. He remains silent, causing her to lashes out, warning him to take his training seriously, or she won't be buying him any fried dumplings. The scene transitions to two schoolboys watching a high-stakes boxing match. One of the fighters is a disciple of someone who was once a student at their very school. As they watch, another student chimes in with concerns regarding Gitai. Rumors are swirling that he still hasn't been discharged from the ICU. One of the boys refuses to believe anyone actually had the grit to hospitalize someone as formidable as Gitai. However, the word on the street is that Minjae was the one behind Gitai's miserable condition. They assume Minjae must be some professional-grade fighter to have overwhelmed such a beast. They wouldn't have believed the hype if it weren't for the fact that Gitai was currently rotting in a hospital bed. Meanwhile, behind a secluded corner of the building, Minjae arrives there. Bagan is also there, serving as a human punching bag who gets slapped for mistakes he never committed. Right now, Minjae is livid because Bagan arrived late and bailed the previous day. To avoid further wrath from the redhead, Bagan reluctantly reports that the blue-haired girl is still under the radar. This unpleasant truth only serves to anger Minjae further, triggering another sharp slap. He is annoyed that Bagan failed at the one simple job he was assigned. Our low-budget Donald Drum is intimidated like a traumatized victim, quivering at Minjae's threatening posture. He begs for mercy, claiming he tried his best, even spending the entire night staking out Ah-jin's house. Minjae is finally satisfied and gives his slave an approving smile. Suddenly, Minjae is called out by the same group that was just praising him. Under the assumption that Minjae is the next Mike Tyson, one of the guys bows his head in respect, much to his buddy's confusion. The ball licker of the group whispers to his friends to do the same, to bow at the might of the great Minjae if they don't want to be devoured. That's how Minjae ends up with 3 loyal dogs at his command. If you don't recall, these guys used to be Gitai's lackeys, now ready to serve under their new master. Even Minjae is initially clueless as to why he's receiving this much respect. But he soon connects the dots. These guys believe he is the one who hospitalized Gitai. Minjae has become their new religion, and they beg their master to teach them a few moves. While Minjae finds the idea of him defeating Gitai ridiculous, he is an opportunist at heart. He decides to capitalize and play the role of their idol. He reminds them of the humiliating defeat they suffered against Ah-jin and that blue-haired girl. Naturally, the goons remember that day with crystal clarity. Minjae fuels their burning desire for revenge and begins laying out his plan. His goal? To completely cripple Ah-jin's social life. He intends to frame Ah-jin as the villain behind his sister's death and his mother's comatose state. By fabricating evidence and spinning a narrative, he wants common sense to dictate that Ah-jin is the monster. Minjae puts the plan into action by heading to the school rooftop. He forces the goons to bow and bury their heads in the ground, making it look like innocent students are being punished. Once he records the scene, he edits the clip, photoshopping Ah-jin into frames where he wasn't even present, making it appear as though everyone is under Ah-jin's tyrannical command. One of the dim-witted goons doesn't understand how these pictures will help them, but Minjae confidently asserts that his big boss will take care of it, guaranteeing that Ah-jin will be brought to his knees. This mention of a big boss only leaves the lackeys more confused. It is suddenly the middle of the night, and the scene transitions to Saori rotting away in her car. Journalism isn't easy, is it? Her phone rings. It's her boss. While the boss wants her to expand her investigation, Saori is exhausted and desperately wants to go home. The boss diverts her attention to the rising subscriber count of the channel Yoongu works for. It's all thanks to the Vegetable Man boxing match video, the same one Minjae's lackeys were watching. However, because these recent videos are so violence-induced, the viewership is expected to tank soon. Yoongu seems to be running out of fresh content, which means the big boss pulling the strings will likely cut ties with him once he outlives his purpose. Saori's updated task is to figure out the string of characters behind these videos. She acknowledges the order, though she wonders if she can even survive much longer without a shower. She suspects this violent content was produced through a collaboration of multiple YouTubers. During her stakeout, her boss warns her to avoid a direct confrontation with Jung Jung-gu. Speaking of the devil, she notices Jung-gu leaving the very facility she's been watching. Panicking, she cuts the call to focus. Peeking through her binoculars, she notices Junggu looks displeased. After turning into a secluded area, Junggu picks up a call from his boss. The boss is annoyed. If it weren't for that vegetable man video, their channel would be dead. Junggu apologizes for the unsatisfactory results and promises to find something new to milk. The boss gives him a 1-week deadline. Junggu must produce at least one viral stunt video with the potential to hit 1 million views. The carrot at the end of the stick? If Junggu strikes big, he finally gets to join the big boy club. Desperate to move up, Junggu starts losing his mind, frantically promising to meet the deadline. Saori, just around the corner, absorbs as much info as she can. She's confused by Junggu's mention of a 1-week promise, but she immediately prepares to report her findings. However, in the next moment, that dead-eyed, scummy musclehead stands right over her like a grim reaper. She realizes she's in deep trouble. There was a reason she was warned never to cross paths with this jackass. Back to Min-jae and his crew. In the park, the bastard is sending out material for their next viral video. He is certain this will be enough to ruin Ajin's life. He assigns roles. Our budget Donald Drum is to surveil Ajin like a sniper, while the rest are to move the moment they spot him, whether it's in class or the bathroom. Finally, he orders one of them to find Lee Ha-young, the girl who helped ruin Lee Ari's life. When a goon mentions she isn't in his contacts anymore, Min-jae asserts his authority by slapping the life out of him. That girl is a crucial piece of the puzzle. She will be framed as Ajin's accomplice in ruining his own sister's life. We then return back to our girl. Seeing this budget John Wick staring her down, she thinks she's finished. Surprisingly, he acts chummy. He claims he's just a gym freak doing drills and asks what a high schooler is doing out so late. Saori is annoyed that he assumes she's a student. He invites her into the gym, but she declines, citing the late hour. Junggu acknowledges her decision and walks past, only to stop and deliver a chilling parting shot. He tells her to say hello to Ajin for him. Saori can only stare at him with cold, terrified eyes. We cut back to Ajin, who is duking it out with Jerry. Ajin is successfully blocking and sidestepping his senior's onslaught. Jerry admits the kid has improved, but not enough to predict an impromptu kick that lands right on Ajin's head. The boy absorbs the blow, only to be met by a surprise belly jab that sends him rolling across the dojo. Ajin is squirming in pain, but the veteran is relentless. Drawing a threatening-looking knife, he swings it violently. Ajin barely survives the slashes. Jerry goes absolutely nuts, pinning the boy to the ground and jabbing the blade straight into his heart. Ajin screams in terror, only to realize he's overreacting. It was a dummy knife. His chest is spotless. He genuinely thought he was going to die, not from the wound, but from sheer terror. Jerry helps him up and explains the lesson. Those who panic when things go sideways are the first to lose. One must overwhelm their opponent with panic and fear. Ajin recalls the fight with Gitai. When he ducked Gitai's punch, the brute panicked. But when Ajin landed a jab on Junggu, the bastard remained unhinged, and that lack of reaction instilled a paralyzing fear in Ajin. Ajin is snapped out of his thoughts by a phone call from an unknown number. It's Fatty. Outside Ajin's apartment, the poor guy is staring at the hateful graffiti scribbled all over Ajin's door. It wasn't Bagan who did it, but he was forced to go there. He's weeping, explaining how he's being threatened to surveil the house. Suddenly, he gets a phone call from Min-jae. Fatty claims Ajin is likely asleep. Min-jae surprisingly trusts him but tells him to wait 30 minutes. At the same time, Min-jae's crew has brought Lee Ha-young to the scene to finalize their fabrication. Back on the phone with Ajin, Bagan warns him that doom awaits outside his door. Just as he says this, Bagan is brutally struck. Ajin hears the sound of Bagan being pummeled through the phone. Something shifts inside Ajin. Jerry notices the sudden change in his mood, but Ajin claims he's fine. Junggu, meanwhile, is trying to convince his boss, Geico, that Min-jae's fake story about Ajin will be the next million-view hit. He even offers to go back to beating up homeless people if it fails. His boss dismissively hangs up, leaving Junggu roaring like a frustrated gorilla. He turns back to Saori, but she has already vanished. Ajin finally reaches his apartment. He finds bloodstains in the corridor and profanities on his door. A sticky note invites him up to the roof. Ajin slams the rooftop door open, making a true Chad entrance. The goons are there, surrounding the mangled Fatty. Ajin holds up the note, asking if they left it. They begin mocking him, bringing up his sister and wondering how painful it was for her to jump from the roof, suggesting Ajin should test it out himself. These soulless jabs push Ajin over the edge. The goon leader orders his friends to attack. The unsuspecting hobos charge, not realizing they aren't fighting the old, broken Ajin. They are fighting a man with the strength of a berserker. Ajin remembers Jerry's lessons. As they charge the stairs, Ajin leaps from his position and lands squarely on the rooftop. He launches himself at the goon, calling the shots. Utilizing the man's panic, Ajin delivers a nose-shattering knee smash. Another goon swings a bat. Ajin ducks and counters with a rib-shattering punch. When the next bat comes swinging, our boy doesn't duck. He manifests his inner Bruce Lee and shields his head. The bat shatters into splinters against his arms. He glares at his remaining opponent like a thirsty monster, instilling enough fear to leave him slumping to the ground in terror. Ajin threatens to induce the same kind of pain on them with a sharp rake pointed against this dude's neck. Needless to say, bro is shitting bricks right now and begging to be spared, highlighting that it was all because of Minjae, that he joined the wrong side. Annoyed but merciful, our boy tells these clowns to fudge out of here, so they pick each other up and leave. As for Donald Trump's son over here, bro's beaten the burgers out of him, pleading to our boy for his help. But Ajin only looks at him with a tremendously furious glare. In the next scene, he takes the fatty to his home, nursing his wounds. The bruises are insane, but more than that, Bagan is emotionally conflicted and apologizes for all the trouble. Our boy forgives him, but Fatty over here has a proper emotional breakdown, muttering a bunch of names, something that our boy doesn't really understand. At once, Fat French Fry explodes on Ajin, roaring at Minjae and cursing him out for trying to frame Ajin as a brother who sold out his own family. Concerned, our boy decides to listen quietly and asks for every single detail of the idiot's plan. Later, Minjae receives word that they've acquired Ha-young. The redhead's a bit annoyed that it took them this much effort. Ha-young's not looking in top condition with her face beaten into a mush. Minjae bitch slaps his own dude for beating her up senselessly when now wasn't the right them. Ha-young laughs, calling the idiot a dumbass. Minjae then comes up to grab her by the hair, scoffing at her for betraying orders when he's the one who hired her for the job. She spits in his face, literally, and now I know some of us might have liked that, but Minjae's ego is severely hurt. Ha-young calls him an idiot for not knowing why she went into hiding in the first place. And frustrated as Minjae is, bro kicks her in the name of gender equality, putting her shivering body on the ground. Full of irritation, the redheaded realizes that his entire plan is now spoiled, when suddenly one of his punks shares a new piece of information. The dudes they sent after Ajin have all lost contact with them for some reason, causing Minjae's blood pressure to rise again because nothing's going right. His two idiot subordinates look at each other in confusion, while bro realizes that waiting for Jungkook's approval might really get them in trouble, as it'll be hard to control the situation. To issue a new phase of orders, he rallies up the clowns and explains that they'll follow the original plan of beating Ajin black and blue, regardless of what their big boss says. The redhead psychotically states that his skills are plenty for the job. After all, he's the one responsible for the death of Ajin's sister. Bro thinks he's out here trying to be Ayano Koji and Light Yagami's son, but he keeps taking L's. Anyway, Ha-young's situation is put up for question since she spoiled part of their plans, but Minjae believes they should have a few changes. The new story is simple. They're gonna call her the poor girlfriend who was abandoned and abused by her own dear boyfriend. Back to our boy. Ajin is freshly learning about the capture of Ha-young. The fatty adds that because Ha-young and him were seemingly dating, Minjae wanted to use it for his own schemes and make it seem like Ari's own brother wanted the inheritance money. Our boy also learns that the main culprit is Jungkook, but in reality, the redhead himself hasn't received proper confirmation from his boss, which means Minjae is really just acting on his own. In fact, the guys Ajin beat up earlier on the rooftop were also confused if the whole operation was being engineered by Jungkook or not. Fat French Fry realized at that point that they desired the approval of Jungkook, suggesting a clash of interests between both leaders. Hearing this, Ajin instructs Bagan to sleep over for the night so they can head to school tomorrow. As for our boy, he's gonna be going out for a little mission, and this time, he's not gonna be alone. That leads us to creepy long-haired Toji, who is currently moping around for being outplayed by a bunch of high schoolers. Suddenly he receives a phone call from driver 1. It's actually his main man Minjae, who receives an immediate scolding from Jungkook for treating this whole shit show like a joke. Jungkook is furious that the redhead is lost in the sauce and doesn't know what he's doing with his plans, even promising to slice him to bits the next time he sees the guy. But this is where an interesting change develops. Minjae starts talking back to his own boss, calling his attitude trash. In fact, he's resigning officially as this guy's driver, suggesting that he keep doing his loser gym shit alone. The conversation only leads to Jungkook's anger to soar higher as he shatters his own phone with his grip, laughing at the audacity of these kids for messing with him. Bro's so insane he wants to beef with high schoolers and rip their mouths off, but suddenly, a vehicle arrives, blinding lights in his face. It's our favorite mixed hair girl with a happy smile on her face, while Jungkook is stunned that these kids can even drive. Confident, she stares him down, while he wonders if she's so bold to try and run him over with her vehicle. Girl steps on the fucking pedal to prove her point and races full speed right at him, while this dude stares at her without fear. Reality starts to crumble for Jungkook the moment he realizes this chick is not gonna stop. She's got that indifferent look on her face, inviting a moment of panic where he loses his shit. Scared, bro ends up dodging to his right, which reminds me of a certain scene of a certain fight in Dragon Ball Z. Jungkook is trashed, while she parks right next to him, wondering if she drove him to fear. Bro genuinely starts to realize that she's even more insane than he is, but she doesn't care, and hits him with an emotional uppercut by saying he got dumped by his own boss Geico. That comes as a shock to Jungkook, while she gives him the middle finger before heading out, leaving this guy to bitch around like he always does. Then she calls Ajin, who she hasn't been in contact with for a while. Our boy actually asks her for a favor, explaining how Minjae's coming after him. She thinks it's all fun and jokes and even casually shares that she had a conversation with Yoongu just now. And despite her actions, she knows the muscle maniac won't stop coming after them. This brings us back to the dojo with Budget Aizen. Ha-young is slammed next Tuesday. She's been beaten enough just so that she doesn't lose consciousness. Min-jae's lackeys don't get the point of beating their targets, but the redhead has his own goals and threatens Ha-young again. He wants video footage of her confessing that Ah-jin beat her up. But despite all her bruises and gashes, she refuses to put him on fire, and in return shares that it's Min-jae who did it all. Furious again, the redhead starts kneeing her in the stomach relentlessly, drilling into her memory that it's Ah-jin she's supposed to talk about. Even Min-jae's own lackeys are like, wait bro, he's going way too far. But this guy is some next-level creep. He's panting, but not stopping. Introducing a new threat, he grabs a bottle and is about to smash her head open, even against the fear of his own men. At that moment, a certain someone comes around joining the fray. This man is wearing a taekwondo uniform, and we all know who it is. Min-jae's ranting ceases when he turns back to find a brooding tall man ordering him to stop immediately. He turns into a pussy the exact second he sees a guy his own size, while our glorious king checks on Ha-young's fleeting condition, pissed off to witness her pathetic state. Min-jae doesn't know what the hell is going on, he's panicking, while this guy picks her up out of the trash. The redhead's ego is really hurt, thinking that a foreigner is mocking him, so he grabs the bottle and speedily smashes it at the back of his head. Instead of flinching from the pain, the calm master simply observes, while Min-jae thinks he's got the upper hand. But then comes the most diabolical side-eye from the nicest dude ever, a way to say, "You are so fucking dead," with just his eyes. The glare makes Min-jae and his lackeys piss their pants, to the point that he can't even move while the guy walks past them, taking Ha-young out of the alleyway, causing another blow to Redhead's ego. Coming back to Saori's side, she wants to come up with a plan knowing that Jungkook's gonna come after them soon for a retaliation. Because of that, our boy suggests meeting up at the Taekwondo club because of his master's added safety, while she's surprised that the club is still open at this time. The plan is set with Ah-jin contacting Master Jerry and later meeting up with her at the same point. Speaking of which, we actually see Min-jae breaking into Jerry's crib. Bro is seething from the humiliation ritual and doesn't even care if the foreigner ends up finding out about this. The redhead emphasizes that he's the same man who put Gitai in the ICU. He also adds that he's the one who managed to smash the master's head earlier with a bottle. Min-jae seems to have some kind of god complex, believing he's not your average bully and some kind of super saiyan god bully. He gives his lackey 30 minutes to absolutely smash this place to pieces, refusing to let his plan fall through as he intends to make a new one and reset the whole board. Then we arrive at the hospital, where Jerry has taken Ha-young to safety, while Yukyung worriedly comes to find him. She starts beating him up for endangering someone again and injuring himself, but he promises her that it wasn't his involvement. Yukyung sees Ha-young's battered state, and the master explains that he found the little girl in the alleyway. Actually, this is when he remembers that the same guys are targeting Ah-jin and Saori, so he tells Yukyung to hurry up and contact her. Yukyung is a little annoyed and intends to call her company before the others, even at a late hour. She rings the phone, contacting section chief, and it's here we get to learn that this woman is a badass working with the police station. As for Ah-jin, the dude bolted his way here, happy to realize that his master's club is still open. He's really excited to meet Jerry, but then reality sets in, as he finds the whole club bashed to pieces. The redhead is joyous to see his dear old buddy again, while our boy can't even comprehend what the hell is going on. The doors are locked tight and Ah-jin's all surrounded now. The redhead shares news of his resignation to Jungkook. How sees his own wrecker now, who intends to make a crap ton of money by selling out the older brother of Ari. Min-jae adds that he's got a talent for filming the deaths of people while they happened. After all, he did take out both family members that were important to our boy. And now it's his turn. The redhead is psychotic and fully intends to turn his victim into human garbage. The beating session begins with the first dude racing up to attack Ah-jin, who is processing his emotions, recalling all the important events that have happened so far, the sufferings he's endured with Saori, even the way he met Jerry, how he was treated by Yukyung, and finally how his master gave him this club as a home. The club is aimed at his head, while Ah-jin twists his foot, maneuvering a solidly struck kick in the guy's face, knocking him down. He finally understands what he's supposed to do. Ah-jin's knockdown intimidates the surrounding men, discouraging their morale, while he himself strategizes to take them down one by one. The smartest way is to isolate these guys, especially when he's outnumbered, because bro has no chances of winning in a gang-up situation. To really make things count, Ah-jin intends to target their boss, but reading his mind, the redhead scoffs at him for even thinking of such a strategy. He assures his men not to be scared, since they've got their prey all alone anyway. After all, it's not like bro can do anything if they all just attack together. Min-jae orders them to attack together, so two of them smash at the same time, only for our boy to barely make it out in one piece. And yes, the one piece is real. Repositioning himself, Ah-jin faces further offense from two delinquents, and this time, he blocks the hits head-on, yelping at the pain. Maneuvering his feet, he retaliates with a perfect kick, smashing one dude right into the other one and taking care of two at the same time. The fight's already catching him winded, and before our boy could take a break, one of the guys strikes his leg so hard that it startles him. But even then, this guy doesn't give up and punches him down, taking another one out. So far, the one-man army is actually standing up for himself, earning the surprise of Min-jae. This time, he gives his own men a new incentive, assuring them that whoever gets to be the first to break Ajin's skull is gonna get a cash bonus on top. Our boy is panting, his leg is stinging, and he can barely put his guard up. One of the dudes from behind shouts like an idiot before attacking, so Ajin manages to evade him before weaving against another guy up front. Ajin prepares for the incoming guy's attack, who swings full in motion and ends up getting blocked. Using that same momentum, our boy swings all the way back, glaring at his enemy as he delivers a powerful kick to his stomach, destroying this dude right next to Min-jae. Now at this point, the redhead's pretty impressed. Even though our boy's panting, the fight's been far too one-sided. Min-jae doesn't like how things are going so far, as his video is boring for the audience. While this clown cares about his clip, Ajin roars at him before erupting with tremendous speed, questioning why this asshole is willing to go this far. Unfortunately, while he's blindly charging at his enemy, one of the dudes Ajin knocked down ends up flanking him from behind. The scene ambiguously cuts to Saori, who receives a call from Yuk-young, complaining why Jerry is refusing to pick up the phone. The master's wife asks about Saori's condition, much to her confusion, and then Saori learns about their incident at the hospital. Saori panics, realizing that the incident happened near the dojo, while Yuk-young questions if she got Ajin in trouble with some dangerous kids. Refusing to scold her further, Yuk-young tells her to go and find Ajin, locating him to a safe place first. Saori agrees to her instructions, and their call concludes there. But Jerry is concerned and wants to know what happened. She refuses to tell him anything and instead checks on Hyung, who has seemed to regain her consciousness. We return to Saori stopping by at the dojo, begging that her gut feeling ends up wrong. Climbing the staircase, she finds a blood imprint alongside trails of footsteps. Hasting even more, she dashes her way to find Ajin, slamming the doors open. But when she arrives here, she sees our boy standing in the middle, having thrashed the entire group. He's still up on his feet, having taken care of the idiot he smacked his head. Worried about his condition, Saori runs full speed to catch him, begging him to stop. But our boy's had enough, and looked at her with a murderous glare, refusing to acknowledge her as a friend, and blindly lashing ahead. Saori barely avoids him as he collapses on the ground, earning the anger of a mixed-haired girl, who only forgives him because he's in a terrible condition. She checks on his bloodied state, begging him to wake up. Ajin is barely conscious and recognizes her, while she hastens to call emergency service for him. Despite all his injuries, the poor guy is still fixated on his goal of tracking down Min-jae, who apparently ended up running away. Speaking of which, Min-jae is currently sitting at a desk. His face is all bruised up from the hits he endured just now. Panic is killing him, but all he cares about is uploading this upcoming video, permanently ending Ajin's reputation and career. Before the video is uploaded, a certain someone bangs his chair, earning Min-jae's attention. The hand belongs to a familiar person, one who greets the redhead with much delight as Min-jae stares in horror. It's the devil himself, Yoongu, who taunts the kid for lacking manners. At the scene of the dojo, police arrived swiftly to recover the injured. Yuk-young comes along to greet her senior. She's here for her own purpose, and watches Saori from the side. Yuk-young jokingly tells the senior to use an umbrella and goes up to check on Saori, who is sulking. She calls out for her attention, smiling at the girl who drifts her gaze away. Calmly sitting down, she talks about the first time they met each other. It was the same weather, it was raining. Back then, the police were investigating a case when Yuk-young smelled something burning. Apparently the family of the dumpling factory owner found itself deceased after a rumor began because of a video. Several people died, raising the question if they were turned into waste. Yuk-young took great offense against the senior who had no respect for the deceased. At that moment, the woman heard a sound, inquiring if her senior had heard it too. Tracing its source, she came all the way to a closet and opened it up. It was here she found a young girl, passed out, and immediately urged for an ambulance. The ambulance came. Saori's critical state was rushed to the vehicle while the poor girl cried, wanting to see her mother. All this time, Jerry and Yuk-young couldn't have a child. That's why they've always thought of the little girl as their very own daughter. That's also the reason she wants her to confess everything about what's going on, as it'll be the only way to help. Trembling, the girl apologizes for her hastiness and begins to weep, terrified that the dojo ended up in such a condition, that she didn't say things sooner. Watching her in a condition like this, Yuk-young embraced the girl without saying anything. The scene cuts to the ICU ward. Our boy is resting and recovering, while Jerry is staring him down like a damn ghost. Bro startles the kid awake, nearly giving him a heart attack. Ajin learns that he was taken to a hospital, and apologizes that it's because of his actions the dojo got trashed to ruins. The master, instead of berating him, actually gives him a thumbs up for handling things perfectly. This is quite the interesting turnaround, because Jerry only cares about the fact that the kid protected himself with the same skills he taught his student. As for his dojo, that doesn't matter much at the end of the day. Again, Ajin feels genuine guilt for letting things happen this way, but his master reassures him that it's alright. Yukyung is going to ask Saori in detail. Both of them are curious to know how the two kids managed to run into such bad influence of people and what happened. The fact that Jerry knows this much stuns Ajin already, but it's actually because Hyung explained the situation to him. Hearing her name, Ajin shouts that that girl isn't Ari's friend at all, and though it's hard for him to bear listening to Hyung's name, the master tells him to calm down. After all, Hyung has resolved herself to tell everything in detail. That's when Jerry removes the blinds and reveals that Hyung is actually situated just next to our boy. She's in the same messed up position, and so her side of the story finally begins. Hyung starts off by saying that she didn't know any better about the information. All she cared about was acting and earning money from it. It was an easy cash grab, and she could buy all the things she could ever want because of it. As time passed, Hyung continued to be the same, until one day, one of her friends shockingly announced the death of Lee Ari. A blonde from her own friend group sarcastically made fun of Ari's death, waiting for Hyung's reaction. But to the friend group's surprise, Hyung was silent. She intentionally cropped up a response acting like the situation didn't affect her, but she was shaken. She admits to being a literal bitch, an asshole who became a part in Ari's demise. But that's when things got really creepy, as every single night, Hyung would sit terrified in her room, only to see Ari's horrifying corpse looming over her. And my god, I hope that thing does not appear in my nightmares. Each night became more difficult for her to bear, so Hyung started playing all night, eventually running away from home. Then she spent all the money she had from Min-jae, forced to make ends meet for his tasks. Gitai found her, stunned that she was part of their group, while Jung-gu berated him for blocking the way. He too found her at that point, remembering Hyung from somewhere. Gitai gave his boss the context he needed, sharing how Hyung had involvement with Min-jae's video regarding Ari. Instead of thanking Gitai for his suggestion, Bro threatened to hospitalize his bitch ass if he spoke again. Jung-gu thought of a plan, before inviting Hyung over for a job position based around her skills. And it was the first time she ever encountered the human trash called Jung-gu, and what kind of men he worked with. It's the end of the line for the redhead who's quivering like a puppy while being tied up in Jung-gu's care. The leader is pissed off that the video wasn't even recorded properly, and delivers an agonizing fist to this guy's stomach, berating him for even thinking he's the same. Min-jae cries out of pain, while Jung-gu taunts Gitai for serving as a mere lackey for some idiot with red hair. The guy denies the situation, earning a laugh from Jung-gu, who learns that Gitai only followed Redhead's orders based on the money that was promised. Psycho Gym Freak finds it sad that the guy's pride was shattered over a bunch of pennies, and admits to knowing the feeling of humiliation on his own. He offers Gitai a chance to reset things and be welcomed into the Jung-gu family. But while he's saying that, Min-jae's eyes are pouring down tears. Gitai joins the group, so as his first mission, Jung-gu assigns him a role to punch the shit out of Redhead, and a single glare from him immediately puts Gitai under motion. Bro pathetically slaps Min-jae's face. Jung-gu wonders if the guy is enjoying the feeling of finally feeling like a superior, instead of being a weakling. Redhead is pleading and begging with the best pathetic face he can, but even then, Gitai continues to smash his face, refusing to comply. Let's go back to Jerry and his gym. Unfortunately, the place has been closed down for a bit. Yukyung emphasizes that it's because of the recklessness of a few that innocent people get affected too. The situation is beyond the scope of the both of them. As for the story regarding Hyung, Jerry's wife thinks that the situation has evolved into a proper attempted murder case. Saori tries to pitch in, while Yukyung suddenly connects the dots and realizes that this girl has been intentionally training him all along. Our boy pitches in stating that he's the one who wanted to get stronger, because shortly after losing his mother and sister, he was completely lost and had nowhere to go. Meeting Saori changed that. She helped grant his request, so he's the most grateful to her. Yukyung continues to interrogate and asks how the two of them came in contact. And while Ajin is about to explain, Saori herself reveals her connection as a driver for the Cyber Wreckers group. Yukyung doesn't get what that means at all, so Saori explains in proper detail. The role of a driver is to dig up social issues and find suspenseful material for content. She handles all of that. Yukyung asks if she was asked by the Cyber Wreckers to come and approach Ajin, and here's where we learn that it's actually half true. She willingly stepped in to protect Ajin from the Wreckers after realizing that the two of them shared the same pain, the pain of being left alone. Everything's put under question now, as Yukyung interrogates the girl about her parents. Before she could say anything, Saori herself shares that the law wasn't formidable enough to protect her family. All because of one stupid video, her family got trashed. The rumor of the food waste being put in dumplings from her family's factory, it was all just a fabrication caused by a wrecker. The people went feral for the content and spread the news like wildfire, ultimately driving them to their deaths. Saori bawls her eyes out, questioning why no one believed a word her parents said, how her family completely felt cornered in the end. The same bullshit situation happened with Ajin, A story that wasn't even true ended up taking innocent lives, while the people who fabricated the situation earned fame and wealth from it. The police don't even arrest such people, and while she's in the middle of crashing out, Ah-jin calms her down, finally letting Yuk-young speak. She understands that a decision was made on Sayori's behalf, but involving themselves any deeper into this mess could easily earn them problems of their own. That's why she wants every single one of them to stop here and now. Except, Sayori's cause matters more to her as she rebelliously goes against her advice. She swats off her hand and apologizes, heading out, leaving Ah-jin to his own too. Jerry, the golden retriever cool guy, greets her casually, only to get ignored all the same. Our boy runs after her, but his master stops him, urging the kid to take care of Sayori and not get hurt in the process. He assures the kind master not to worry, and runs off trying to catch her. Meanwhile, Yuk-young and Jerry are left to their own devices, helpless to advise the kids any better. In the next scene, driver girl and our boy are on a trip. She asks Ah-jin if he recorded Ha-young's interview, to which he agrees, while still avoiding her. They're both uncomfortable with the state of the current situation, so Ah-jin starts to share how Ha-young was apparently dragged to wrecker meetings created by Junggu. Some dude named Gaiko is supposed to be the main leader in command of all this. There were also several other bodyguards hired, which definitely makes it seem like the situation is far greater than they imagined. Sayori suspects the involvement and funding of a major enterprise. After all, this whole shit show has always been about money. Having over 10 bodyguards can't come from simple content revenue alone, implying the connections of someone deeper behind the scenes. Ah-jin also shares one strange part that bothered him the most. Before heading out, Ha-young had one last thing to share, revealing the subject that Gaiko and the other wreckers loved talking about the most. The subject is related to J's Entertainment, the same rival company of the idol K-pop group Wiz Girls. Hitting the brakes, Sayori believes they should talk it out at their destination, while Ah-jin stares up at the gigantic media company building. Seoris's goal is to help figure out the clues here, so they enter inside, meeting up with an assistant who calmly leads them to the archives room. This place is reserved for staff members only, and though Ah-jin's a little afraid, Sayori assures him that bro isn't about to get kidnapped. The staff member passes the card for authentication, allowing them access to a whole bunch of files. Here, there's a specific person that Sayori knows about called Mr. Whale, who is sitting at his desk. The main operator of the channel Blue Whale TV, as well as the manager of the company, greets his drivers. He knows about Ah-jin, having heard plenty from Sayori over here, while our boy is just getting the hang of things, not knowing why this dude is called Whale or whatever. She apologizes on our boy's behalf, assuring the operator that Ah-jin's still under training. To make things easier, the man decides to show him a video to serve as a proper introduction, and though he doesn't know if it'll be a convenience, it's plenty for their first meeting. The video starts with Blue Whale introducing himself, sharing reports of the world's worst disaster, 9/11, and even the launch of rockets from a certain company owned by Elon Musk. Good and bad news in the world keeps on going, whether it is war or technological advancement. But the operator poses a big question. Why do people believe in things that haven't happened before their eyes? This happens through sensationalism in the media, clickbait among other misinformation. This same need for drama and clickbait could lead to someone's very life being ruined. And next he addresses the videos that he himself makes. A 2 million subscriber YouTuber channel isn't any different. Each story is intentionally crafted for people to consume out of fun or boredom or even the element of curiosity. It starts and ends with the concept of devouring media, and people consume it with delight. Blue Whale wants to put a stop to this consumerism, even if his own channel might be deleted or if his subscriber count drops. Perhaps he'll get death threats, but his secret weapon is the full story covering the extent of the Lee Ari murder case. The operator coldly states that Ari didn't take her own life, but rather, her death was a murder case, carefully orchestrated. After the conclusion of the video, Ah-jin seems to be panting, probably out of traumatic stress, while Sayori comforts him. He wonders when the operator will release the video. The only problem is that they've yet to catch the leader Gaiko. Hearing about the project meant to enact justice against his sister's death, Ah-jin is fueled with the flames of catching Junggu, or even Gaiko, for the cause. This is exactly what the operator needed to hear, as he's now confirmed the kid's resolve. To start, he shows Ah-jin the J's Center building, the rival agency of the Wiz Girls. It's considered a sketchy location, but no such evidence has been connected to Gaiko's involvement so far. Entertainment companies themselves are sharp and cautious, just as much as the media outlets. By the way, this man has even made a proper flowchart to connect all the dots, associating J's Entertainment's connection with Gaiko, which further extends down to Junggu and the others. The whole system thrives on greed for money, but the interesting detail Ah-jin notices is the governing body even above J's Entertainment. This is something not even the operator knows about, but he suspects that even greater organization is at play here. In the end, they're all they've got to find clues for this case, but the operator reminds Sayori that it's only going to get tougher from here on out. Ah-jin is hell-bent on his mission to catch them, but the Blue Whale doesn't want him to leave without a certain gift. He hands the kid a phone, immediately making Sayori jealous because not even she could get a special phone from him. It's actually a device they're gonna use to catch evidence. The moment he clicks capture, the whole thing will be streamed on the channel directly, and his influence with 2 million subs will help. Sayori complains about not getting a special toy like that, but the operator trusts Ajin way more in this case. Interestingly, it's here that we're told that the channel isn't run by a single person, but multiple. Even Sayori is flabbergasted because she thought he's the only dude moving the pieces, and though it's true that he runs the organization, there are other members like Shark and Octopus. It's basically a network of several technicians working in the shadows to reveal the truth. Long story short, it's not a personal channel but a small company of its own, and just owning a device like this phone scares Ajin because it feels like a weapon. With this, Sayori officially congratulates him for becoming a true driver, and while they're bantering about, the operator reflects that the phone is indeed a weapon in the boy's hands. He's really curious to see the kind of person the kid will end up becoming, and how he'll manage to use such a weapon. By night, Ajin and Sayori are headed to their next destination, discussing Minjae's cause to attack the dojo. Our boy wants to find direct evidence that Junggu and Gaiko are having a conflict, and in order to do that, Minjae's involvement is necessary. The big problem is, they don't have any clue where that idiot redhead ran off to, or if Junggu is purposefully protecting him. Sayori suggests that they actually track down Gitai instead, even though Ajin fears that Junggu could end up destroying Minjae's evidence and they'll be left with nothing. The cunning Sayori shares that they'll be setting a little trap, and it starts with Gitai, who was brutally beaten up by Junggu at the hospital, and then, eventually became the guy's servant. This means that Gitai probably also secretly resents his boss. Based on that information as well as the address they got from Hayoung, they decide to head over to the location where Gitai gathered the kids. That's the place where they're likely to find him after all. Sayori is excited and races off to get there, and in the next scene, we find our duo searching around a dark alleyway to find the correct hideout. They walk and walk until they stumble across the basement floor. Sayori immediately brings out her trusty baton to catch any smoke, and ushers Ajin to keep his guard up too. Both of them are in total defense mode, with our boy gently grabbing the door, reassuring Sayori with a nod, before barging it open. They find nothing inside except heaps of trash laying around. The mere smell is disgusting, and from the piles of food waste, Sayori suspects that they haven't come here in a while. Ajin wonders if they all just left, and heads on to check the other rooms, not knowing that secretly, someone is spying on them with great delight. Our boy looks for a clue when suddenly, a blue figure runs in, catching his attention. He shouts at the person to stop, but this one slams the door on them, locking our boy in. Ajin realizes that they're completely stuck here, while Sayori comes to check on his condition, only to realize that they're the ones who are caught in a trap. Sayori wants to know what the hell is going on, urging him to stop spacing the hell out. Ajin has absolutely no idea what she's talking about, but this girl's not about to stay down. She dashes up full speed and slams the door with a freaking tackle, shaking the lock outside. With enough slams, Sayori literally breaks free, slamming the door down with her. Ajin checks on her condition, but she's pissed that he's still talking and not chasing after that idiot. Both of them run off to catch Blue Hood over here, with Ajin refusing to let this guy run away. The hot pursuit is in motion, with a blue hoodie panting from exhaustion, our boy dashing after him and Sayori in last place. Suddenly she notices something to her side and stops. It's an alleyway, so she tells Ajin to cut into the shortcut to the right, which gives this guy the opposite suggestion as he ends up cutting a corner to the left. Ajin catches up shortly and closes the distance again. He demands this guy to just stop, while the other dude is too far busy looking back to focus on the girl standing in front. Sayori's been here all along. She tricked his ass by messing with the directions. The guy is startled and has nowhere to run, as Baton Mommy tells him to breathe while it goes in. Unfortunately, the guy gives up before she could even hit him, because even to Sayori's surprise, he just wants to be saved. Ajin doesn't know what the hell's going on either, and after removing this clown's cap, they discover that he's actually one of Minjae's lackeys. The guy shares that he came here looking for his boss as well, surprising the both of them, while Ajin inquires why he's looking at all. The lackey explains that he wants his money, as he did all the work he was assigned, only for Minjae to disappear on him when it came to pay him. There's a rumor circulating around that someone actually saw Minjae concealed at the hideout, and that's why he was looking for his boss in the same location as our duo. Sayori connects the dots while Ajin realizes that Minjae and Gitai are actually working together. The lackey doesn't understand why Gitai's name is being linked at all, though he does recall a similar rumor about the guy, that the man who is supposedly hospitalized is out walking late at night. Sayori taunts him for having the nerve to barge into Gitai's place all by himself, and it only just comes as a shock to this idiot that he was investigating the guy's hideout. Sayori calls him an idiot for not knowing any better, while he begs them to simply spare his life. Ajin tries to reason while the blue-haired girl is annoyed at this dude's constant whining. Even our boy threatens to do worse things to him if he ever dares to show his face in front of them again. From this information, Sayori improvises, Believing they should focus on targeting Minjae and Gitai, Ajin agrees and suggests that they head to the school. In the next scene, your average bullies are making a scene and berating Fat French Fry again. Bagan doesn't even have any fight in him or the money to give them, while these punks threaten to steal his bank account. That's when his saviors arrive. It's our favorite baddie Sayori, who taunts these clowns for trying to play cool and edgy. The two guys are startled straight up, while Ajin asks their leader about his connectina with Gitai. The leader doesn't know shit about them, but from the reaction of his own lackeys alone, he can figure out that the man standing before him is Lee Ajin himself. He already knows that our boy has some real experience in fighting, but at the same time he taunts Ajin for acting mighty for beating up losers. To shut this dude up, our boy grabs his hand before twisting it in a position that shatters this dude's confidence to pieces. Playing no games, Ajin demands to know where Gitai is, and when one of the guys tries to be snappy about it, Sayori kicks the shithead's face in. She's annoyed that these muscle-headed idiots never listen to a simple request. The other guy rats out explaining that Gitai went to the runaway fam area for karaoke and gaming. Apparently Gitai himself has been spotted around the location. The delivery guy testified that he usually goes there with 3 other kids. Sayori finally likes someone for talking nicely, but Ajin still isn't convinced and wonders if it's all just a bunch of crap. He tortures the leader even more, getting a proper confirmation regarding the validity of the information. With everything wrapped up here, it's time for them to head off again. Bagan thanks these guys for saving his skin, while the baddie winks nicely, causing him to blush. A few days cut past, and we find Fat French Fry exiting the gaming cafe. Here, he runs into a bunch of dudes name-dropping Gitai for something. Curious, he decides to tail them, and ends up discovering the boss monster Junggu himself, who has gone even crazier and wants to beat up teenage thugs for fun. Bagan watches the scene in horror, while Junggu preys on the demise of the kids, as he live streams them for trying to smoke in public. The commenters make fun of one of the kids and even call him One Punch Man, which is honestly funny. Junggu laughs, while one of his audience members decided to donate 1,000 won, desiring more entertainment. To serve properly, Junggu bashes the kid's face with a crazy punch, creating the entertainment his messed up fans wanted to see. Bagan is watching all of this go down in horror, and we actually cut back to the day Ajin and Sayori saved him. He actually volunteered to help our boy, but Ajin warned him to watch his own back because Junggu is not someone to be taken lightly. His warning rings true even today, but if Fatty doesn't do anything, he'll always remain useless. So he quickly opens his phone to text his buddy, sharing that he found Junggu and is intent on following him. The scene cuts to another beefy dude near Ajin, who is simply enjoying his delicious cup noodles and keeping touch with Sayori. She nags him for getting played by the bullies who fed them information, but he argues that they need to wait until their targets slip up. Sayori asks about Bagan, while Ajin assures her that he's got a contingency plan in place. The girl responds with the famous adage of having a plan until someone gets punched in the face, to which our boy jokingly states that he hasn't been punched enough times to know. Suddenly his bait becomes reality when he hears the dude mouthing Gitai's name. Ajin immediately darts his eyes towards that guy and even hears about Junggu's name on top. At that moment, he starts tailing the guy, while Sayori wonders what's going on. He continues to tail this dude, until he receives a message from Sayori, immediately catching the guy's attention. Ajin acts like he's just walking by on his phone, warding off any suspicion. Just when he goes past the dude, he turns around stating that he's heading back. Our boy overhears those words and explains that he finally got the target. He signals Sayori to act and puts his phone on silent mode shortly after. She comes rushing to find him, asking about the guy's location, and learns that he went into the alley. Unfortunately, the moment our boy put his phone to silent mode is exactly when he receives Bagan's texts. Fat French Fry is still observing the scene, while Junggu assures his chatters that he didn't even hit the kid that hard. The commenters are loving the treatment. Likes and dislikes are soaring higher and higher, making Junggu genuinely believe that he doesn't even need Geico to run his own business. The soaring numbers really makes him feel good about himself, so he directly asks his viewers if they want anything special. They come up with the suggestion that he beat the other 2 guys as well, until suddenly the broadcast is automatically suspended for streaming dangerous content. Junggu's meathead brain didn't anticipate that outcome, as he frustratingly fires his complaints, suddenly noticing a group of people watching him from the side. Enraged, he catches the attention of Bagan, also spying from the side, and though the fatty hides behind the corner again, he knows for a fact that they made eye contact. The kid is hoping that he wasn't too obvious with the filming, while Junggu comes up to greet the boy, inquiring about his identity. Burger Boy is cooked. The scene cuts back to Ajin's side of things. They're still tailing the dude connected to Gitai, who seems to be entering a building. The same guy takes his bag, suddenly hearing a sound on the door. He goes up to confront the source, and discovers a young lady calmly sharing that he dropped something at the convenience store. Sayori presents a cigarette box, immediately catching this dude's attention because he wants free cigs. He tries to take them from her, but Sayori isn't a cheap girl and baits him out. Pissed off, the clown slams the door open to grab it from her. But this is exactly what they needed, as Ajin has a taser ready from the side. Exposed and unable to do anything, Bro is zapped to Kingdom Come, immediately getting knocked out as a consequence. The plan succeeded with brilliance. Sayori knows how these idiots function after all. Next, they take this dude's body inside, while inspecting the room that is full of drinks and shit. After all this time, they still don't have Gitai around, but Sayori wants Ajin to keep on searching every part of the room. Our boy then comes around an interesting room with a lock on it. It's a twist lock, so he ends up opening it, only to be horrified by what he sees. His reaction reduces him to being speechless, making her wonder what's up. Sayori personally steps up to check, only to become horrified all the same. There are several people kidnapped here, all beaten up and starved. These are the runaway kids. Sayori assures them that they're not terrible people, and asks if they're the only ones here. Concerned, she tasks Ajin to properly check the other rooms as well, so the search begins with the first room being empty. One of the victims can barely talk, but Sayori quickly connects his words and urges Ajin to check the bathrooms next. He goes up and pulls the knob, horrifically discovering Minjae's mangled body. The redhead is completely dazed unconscious while our boy tries his best to snap him back to reality. The same clown who tries to act so tough becomes a puppy and begs to be spared the moment he wakes up, only making you wonder what kind of things Yoongu did to him. Not even Ajin can understand what the hell happened to him. The continuous sound of a door jam invites all of their attention. The tense scene leads us all the way back to the entrance where they tased the guy. Someone is trying to break his way in, and it's none other than the man himself, Gitai.